What is happening in San Diego? Great Wednesday morning to you. Welcome back. It's your midday hang. It's Annie and Elsten here with you on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Two-thirds remains a quorum for the show. So we are here and we are official. Craig Elsten here with you with Braden Suprenant. Annie Halbrun has today off for alternate work responsibilities, and she'll be back tomorrow. And we look forward to seeing her then. I believe I saw it's National Signing Day. And
one of the many National Signing Days.
San Diego Sports Authority, they do a whole shindig with that. A day that's not quite what it used to mean, right? In the world of NIL, it's really more the transfer portal these days.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of deals with the they're getting rid of it after this year. They're gonna get rid of like the signings instead of like signing a letter of intent. They're gonna sign contracts, NIL contracts. I guess essentially is what it's gonna be in the future. I don't know if they're gonna have multiple of these days again.
Like
remember,
1-year contracts, or pretty much, right?
I don't know. I was told from athletic departments not in San Diego that 3-year contracts are coming, but I don't think that's a thing now. But I do know it's not going to be like, here's my intent to go play for you. There's going to have some actual contract language in a lot of these. I don't know if that has started today or if that's for the next one. And again, there's like multiple signing days. They have today is like an early signing day, and then they usually have one in like December for football, and then they have the main one in February that they've used to do all the time, the traditional National Signing Day. So I can't keep track with all the signing days. So the fact that you said today is one of them, I will just believe you.
And I just saw it in an Instagram story. Now I want to go double check. Yeah.
I believe it.
And he posted something on her gram.
There's going to be 2 more probably coming up.
That makes sense. Well, regardless, she'll be back tomorrow. We look forward to that. We have the 4-day week to begin with. I had to double check to make sure it was Wednesday before I opened the show. But we've got a good show lined up for you today, including something really exciting for San Diego soccer fans in the final hour of the program. Coming up at 11 a.m., Chris Reed is going to join the show for the first time. My buddy from the Padres Hot Tub podcast, a working actor who continues to be a working actor. You probably, if you ever watch Sons of Anarchy, that's what you probably know him from best. Nonetheless, he'll be along and we'll talk some Padres at 11 a.m., including Roki Sasaki, Profar, maybe some more creative ideas to flesh out the starting rotation as the year goes along. We'll do that at 11 o'clock. Of course, we'll have the 12 o'clock sports fix coming up. Braden and I just divvying up all the important news from the world of sports for you. Today, we will play Fast Money. It was Anybody Knows Day for silly games, but with Annie not here, I'm not going to ruin the bit and take on the easy trivia. So instead, we'll just flip-flop with Fast Money.
Plus, Craigie Buddy Knows doesn't sound
yeah,
good. It doesn't flow
no,
as well.
No. Doesn't make any sense. The bit must remain.
Yes, I agree.
So we can play Anybody Knows on Friday. We can play the match game tomorrow before the Odyssey Palace empties out on Friday. Fridays, you could shoot cannonballs down the hallways here and not hurt anybody. So we'll do that Thursday, and then we'll play Anybody Knows on Friday. Coming up at 1 o'clock, though, and I know it's a 3-hour tease, so something to kind of pin in your mind if you're listening to us right at the start of the show. Tyler Heaps will make his 97.3 The Fan debut. He is the sporting director for San Diego FC. In baseball parlance, he is San Diego FC's A.J. Preller. That's who's coming on the show. The guy who is at the top of the organizational chart when it comes to everything that happens on the field for the newest MLS team, which will debut in February of last year. We had on his head coach, Mikey Vadas, about a week ago. Now we're going to have on Tyler Heaps, the guy who hired Vadas, the guy who is going to hire everybody who's going to be on the pitch for San Diego FC next year. So very much looking forward to that. If you're a soccer fan, tell your friends. That's coming up at 1 o'clock today when Tyler Heaps joins the show. And just doing some research, and we talked about this when he was hired, Braden, as well, but Tyler Heaps, he sees soccer as having inefficiencies in its competitive space akin to turn-of-the-century baseball and Moneyball. He's an analytics guy. Like, he is a big-time analytics guy. He handled the U.S. national team's analytics for 5 years. He comes from a research background, and he believes that there are inefficient spaces, a Billy Bean-like look at pro soccer, which I think is absolutely fascinating because baseball derives so much data. But a flow sport like soccer, how do you even create the data to analyze? So I'm really interested in this guy's thought process. Plus, he came through Right to Dream. He administratively, he wasn't a player in it, but he came through Right to Dream. He is fully versed in everything that San Diego FC is going to try to do as a franchise. So that's coming up at 1 o'clock, and that should be a really interesting conversation. Looking forward to bringing that to you here on the Annie and Elsten show a little bit later on this morning. All right, let's start things off. Topic A, as we, in the first hour, we try to get through some of the big stories from the day and the night that was. We'll get into all the college basketball in our next segment. But for now, let's talk, awards. Padres don't get too many. They get nominated for some. They get left out of others. A.J. Preller gets snubbed for one in particular. But the Silver Slugger Awards were announced. These are voted on by managers and coaches from all 30 teams, asked to vote for the best offensive player at each position. And I think it's 3 very interesting storylines as the Padres tied their franchise record from 2022 and won 3 Silver Slugger Awards yesterday, starting with Manny Machado, because Manny was a player that was kind of the target, I think, Braden, in the first 100 games of a lot of Padres fans' ire. He's washed. He's underperforming. He's over the hill already. He won't do this. He won't do that. Heard all of it. Heard all of it on the airwaves. Heard all of it at the ballpark, on chat rooms, etc. And then Manny Machado had a second half that made him the best hitting third baseman in the National League. And I do think that's some validation for what was a really tough season for Manny coming back from elbow surgery.
Yeah, it's great to see, not only him winning awards, but the other two, and I know we're going to talk about those guys as well. But, every year it seems like we have the same narrative every single year when it comes to Manny Machado. It's the beginning of the season, and he's off to a rough start, and the panic ensues for a lot of people, saying the guy's washed and he's too old and it's a waste of money, yada, 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 yada. But he continues to do great things throughout the entire season and prove that he is one of the best players in Major League Baseball from an offensive perspective, definitely from a defensive perspective. I don't know why he gets hosed all the time for Gold Glove awards, and that's a different topic for a different day. But love to see Manny get some recognition for what he has done for this Padres team, especially what he did this season with the bat after the slow start that he had. But you know what? When it comes to April coming up in the next couple of months here, don't be surprised if he's off to another slow start. He seems to do that all the time. I don't really like to worry or panic about his getting ready for the season because he always goes out there and does well. And I think another Silver Slugger shows that, he knows how to get the job done.
He does. And at the end of the year, he has the right to say it. I'm going to be where I need to be when we need to be where we need to be. That's basically what he said at the beginning of the year. That's what he said June 19th when he spoke very candidly about how he was going to, how he's been battling elbow pain, how he was unable to get the barrel of the bat to the slot that he needed at times. And from that point forward, he was one of the best hitters in the National League. And at the end of the year, the career 279 hitter hit 275. The guy with 1,000 RBI in 10 years got 105. The guy with 342 homers in 10 years got 29. He was just right on almost every single one of his numbers for his career, 13-year career, but two of those deeply derailed by injury. Another, of course, cut short for COVID. So you look at the totals; they feel like kind of full 10-year totals, and that's what this guy is. He's 275, 30, and 100, and he's built to last. And I do believe that. Not to say that necessarily when he's 38, he's going to hit 275 with 30 homers and 100. But are you sure he's not going to? Because he is Manny Machado.
I think he's done a good job of, like, just for his age and stuff, just keeping track of his body and being in good enough shape. And the other thing, too, like, that Manny doesn't do anything, like, extra necessary in terms of body movements. He's not like a Fernando where you have to, like, protect him from himself. He is very savvy in what he does, and he doesn't, he's the running back like LaDainian Tomlinson used to be in the mid part to end of his career, where he knew when to get out of bounds and not, go a little bit extra and put more blows on his body. And from a baseball perspective, he understands where he needs to be and what he needs to give out in order to make it through the season and be productive at the dish. That's why I always find it hilarious when people call him Johnny Hustle and they get upset when he doesn't, like, sprint out of the box, which, by the way, nobody does. But I need that guy in the lineup through his at least, till late 30s, early 40s of his career. So we can't have him getting banged up too much. And I think he does a good job of keeping his body healthy throughout the entire season. And I think that's a big reason why he's going to be still competitive in his later stages of his career.
I agree. And Padre fans better hope so. So I agree on a platform that I also can't afford not to, which is that Manny Machado will continue to succeed for years and years to come, because he's going to be here for years and years to come. Another guy who you really hope is going to be here for years and years to come is Jackson Merrill. And it's not a small thing for a rookie outfielder to win Silver Slugger. It doesn't happen very often. It's happened, I think, 5 or 6 times in the history of the game. Last was Julio Rodriguez in Seattle. We know what kind of contract that kid got. Who knows what the future holds for Jackson Merrill. But it is quite telling that his year, when you look back at it, wound up being one of the best hitting years for any outfielder in the National League, never mind rookie.
Yeah, he was exceptional, and that was one of the major risks going into the season was, can Jackson Merrill be an everyday starter in center field? Is he going to be able to handle the grind of Major League Baseball? And, for a guy with such a pure swing and a contact hitter and a good fastball hitter, he didn't have any problems. And when you're a good contact hitter, just in the game of baseball, the ball's going to leak through. You're going to have a lot of opportunities for yourself to get out of slumps. And any time that he went through any type of adversity, which wasn't a lot this year, he's able to get out of it very quickly because he's such a great contact hitter, bat-to-ball hitter that we have seen this season. And that's kind of it's nice to see for a player, especially a rookie in this day and age of baseball where you don't get a lot of guys like that anymore. Everybody's looking for the power swing, and there's a lot of strikeouts and a lot of home runs. You get a kid like Jackson Merrill that, basically returns to sender wherever the ball is pitched to him. And that's a big reason why he won a Silver Slugger. Now the big problem for the Padres is kids playing so well, you got to find ways to try to keep him on your team past his rookie deal. So I'm sure they're going to try to work on some stuff this offseason. Would not be surprised if they try to do it again maybe next offseason as well. But you got to start thinking about how do we keep this guy on our club for a long period of time, because that was kind of be one of your dudes that was going to offset some of the costs. And if he continues to play at a high level, those arbitration numbers might be higher than you are expecting.
Yeah. Here are the 5 rookie outfielders in the history of Major League Baseball to win a Silver Slugger award: Jackson Merrill, Julio Rodriguez, Aaron Judge, Mike Trout, and Ichiro.
Bunch of slouches right there.
That's one hell of a list.
I know.
That's the kind of company you want to keep.
100%.
He was keeping company with Mel Ott earlier this year. Griffey. Now he's on a list with Julio, Judge, Trout, and Ichiro. That's Jackson Merrill, and it's the reason why Padre fans can I feel, keep 2 feet out of Doomerville going forward. He's the mayor of Bloomerville when it comes to being a Padres fan. Jackson Merrill is. He's young. He's controllable. He's exciting. The future is unlimited for him. And a 5.3 F4 season as a rookie. And the idea that he could be followed by a couple other impact rookies a year or two behind him. Fingers crossed that you might get a kid of a very similar age to come across the ocean and join the starting rotation and create a young core for the Padres beyond their 30-ish core that they have with Manny and Xander and Cron.
Well, it's a couple of things with that. I mean, that would be obviously the ideal world, is if, these players that are coming up, the DeVries and Salas, right, that had way more hype than Jackson Merrill as upcoming rookies in the near future. To have those guys kind of offset the big contracts, you're in a very big spot. But it goes back with the. We like to talk about Xander Bogaerts all the time, right? And Xander Bogaerts' contract, and yes, he does have to play a lot better for his contract. But the thing that also offsets his contract is the fact that you're getting a rookie playing at an all-star level and almost playing at the level that you would expect Xander Bogaerts to play at. It kind of counteracts a little bit on some of the pain of the contract of Xander Bogaerts, where he doesn't have to do as much because Jackson Merrill is doing that. Now, Jackson Merrill's not getting that money, but you can essentially start treating contracts like that like, all right, well, Xander's kind of playing like a rookie, and the rookie is playing like Xander. I mean, it basically counteracts. And then if Xander comes around, which I think he will eventually, and I hope he does, at least put up a little bit more, numbers-wise, then all of a sudden you're playing with some house money. But, those are the type of players you need to come up and make almost nothing but league minimum to counteract some of your big contracts in the near future. That's where this plan that the Padres have works out. The plan where it doesn't work out is if these guys do not come up and play at the expected level that they are expected to play at, and then all of a sudden you got aging contracts and veterans and your team's not very good because some of the young guys cannot pick up the pace of what the older players are missing in the later parts of their career. So that is a lot of pressure. That is the big roll of the dice, but you know what? A.J. Preller had a big roll of the dice this year, and it worked out for him. Hopefully everything keeps coming up red or black or whatever he put all his money on the roulette table.
Yeah, and, when we talk about making trades and making potential impact trades this offseason, they're always going to be coming with a tag of one or two of those guys, Salas or DeVries or Salas and DeVries. You want to go get Garrett Crochet. I heard the Morning Boys talking about Garrett Crochet. Want to get Garrett Crochet? They want Ethan Salas.
I'd rather have Ethan Salas than Garrett Crochet.
And I just think it's dangerous to move off of talent like that at the ages that they are at, because it would have been very easily, and go back and look if you feel like it, it'd be very easy 2 years ago to look at Jackson Merrill's numbers in A-ball and go, we can move off of that. 290, like 11 homers. Who's to say that that's going to be an impact player in the big leagues? It was hard to say off of his 2023 numbers that he was going to be an impact player in the big leagues, and yet there he is. So something to think about. We'll get to Jurickson Profar more probably in the 11 a.m. hour as well. But congrats to Jurickson, his first ever Silver Slugger award. Manny's second, both coming with the Padres. That's kind of an interesting trivia note.
That is interesting.
Yeah, 2020, which is, a fake year that doesn't count. And it's lost its steam now that the Dodgers have won a full season World Series, I think.
I mean, I think you could still... You know what? I think Dodger fans are now going to be like, yeah, it's a fake season. It's a fake season.
So I'm going to stay with the bit. I appreciate that. You're right, Braden.
That's right.
And now here
you can't
in
stay with the bit too much, though. You want to know, for you especially.
Yeah.
Because the Lakers won that year.
True, but different thing.
See,
completely different
it's
thing.
different. They had a different environment.
Yes.
They're all in the same
bubble.
thing. They couldn't leave the hotel.
Right. They had the wristbands that would
that's
go,
right.
doop, 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 doop. You're leaving the area.
That's right. It was basically like, you leave, you immediately get cut or fired off the island. That should have been a reality. They should have just made. They should have just made it. They should have just made it Survivor.
Where is the Netflix documentary for the NBA bubble year?
The NBA bubble should have been a game. They should have just made it a game show.
Who's to
And
say it's not
teams-
still happening? I don't know.
And teams could have, I mean, especially with the NBA, they could have just had them vote. Every time you lose, you had to vote a player off the team. They had to go off the island, but the rosters were like 20 each. All the G
Silver
League
with a
players.
torch and a
Yes.
snuffer.
Then you could have, I'm sure, they
Sorry,
had a lot of
Adam. The team
islands
has
out there
spoken.
at Disney World, right? You could
You're
have
off
had
to Epcot.
You could have had an
You're outta
immunity
here.
island, and then you had to play a one-on-one game to get back.
Amazing.
This is a great idea. They totally butchered this entire thing.
Redemption Island.
Redemption Island. Exactly.
Oh, Pelicans, you thought you were out of it. No, you're on Redemption Island.
All right, everybody's got to vote, but LeBron being LeBron, he's got an immunity, and so does Bronny.
You need to play a 3-on-3 game for 12 minutes
That's
to
right.
see if you can get off Redemption Island.
Then you
Oh
could
my
bring.
gosh.
Then you could have the rewards would be epic.
Boy, if only they had you
That's right.
5 years ago.
Would have been great.
It could have been so much better.
You know what? A lot of our minds were not thinking clearly in 2020.
That's
right? A lot
fair.
of things. So now with the clarity,
Yes.
I think it's a great idea. Should have been a great idea for sure. You know what? Forget the NBA Cup. Let's do NBA Survivor for the first 2 months.
Let's rebubble. I love it. Okay. When we come back, a wrap up of yesterday in college basketball. All three teams played 2-1. One of those two games mattered. And we'll talk about it all when we come back. It's Annie and Elsten underway. Roll until 2. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Back with you on Annie and Elsten. Annie off today, back tomorrow. Look forward to seeing her. Craig and Braden holding down the fort for you in between. Appreciate you being here as we roll till 2 o'clock. Gwen and Chris go from 2 to 6. This is the extra long broadcast day for 97.3 The Fan, and the one to look forward to most certainly, as we have the Gwen and Chris 2 to 6 program. We have the Scraby Show 6 to 7, and then 7 to 9 inside San Diego baseball with one Sammy Levitt. So we roll till 9 today. We go 15 hours deep on 97.3 The Fan. And some of you will be there for the entire ride. I am sure of that. There's a handful of you that I see if I dip into different shows in every single chat. So for y'all, buckle in. It's going to be a long day here on 97.3 The Fan, but hopefully a really good day. Okay, we talked some baseball in our first segment. We'll do a lot more of that as we head toward 11 a.m. Right now, let's spin through, Braden, the night that was in San Diego College hoops. And just a quick reminder, first off, to the listening audience, it's not just San Diego State this year. You know, UCSD has gone through 4 years of transition. The Tritons last year were a 20-win program. I think they won 21 games. They had to play the CBI because they were not NCAA eligible. But they are NCAA eligible this year and came out, got another win. Of course, they lost a close game at Viejas Arena to San Diego State in their first game. They came back with a big win over Pepperdine. Last night it was Sacramento State and a low-scoring game, but 64-54. UCSD won. I actually put that at the top of the list over SDSU for reasons. The reason is they played a D3 team. So we'll get there.
Beat them by 51 points.
Yeah, it wasn't a real game, essentially. So we'll get there in a minute. But I'm kind of excited, looking ahead for UCSD. Obviously, they're not going to have the strength of schedule that's going to allow them to fight like San Diego State does, for an at-large berth. But they'll play at USD a little bit later in the winter. And then you get into the Big West schedule and, teams like Cal Poly and UC Irvine and Long Beach State and UC Riverside, UC Santa Barbara. But they've got a real chance. They've got a real chance to win the Big West this year and to make it to the first NCAA tournament in the history of the university. A university that for decades played Division III itself, played Occidental in big tournament games itself. And UCSD has graduated from playing Occidental to now actually having a shot at things.
Yeah, and they are one of the schools that the Big West schools are obviously worried about just because of location and being able to recruit and the funding that UCSD is putting into their athletic programs. I mean, they're fully committed to doing it the right way of being D1. I mean, that is a major financial commitment that you have to do in order to make your school a Division I school, especially with trying to be competitive for the first couple of years when you don't get to participate in postseason play. But you go look at the way everything sets out for the Big West, and obviously Irvine is that school that is the top dog in basketball the last couple of years, and they have won the regular season the last couple of years. And you get to tournament play, and all of a sudden it's a crapshoot for a lot of these schools. Long Beach State ended up winning the tournament last year. UC Santa Barbara, always a very good school in the Big West when it comes to college basketball. And everyone else out of that, I mean, are schools that UCSD should probably beat. I mean, Cal Poly has not been very good in college basketball in the last couple of years. Fullerton's kind of on the way down. Every once in a while, you get Northridge to play at a decent level, or UC Davis. But if UCSD can split with Irvine and do the same thing with Santa Barbara, I mean, they're going to be right there in the conversation of a Big West title at the end of the regular season and getting ready for playoff mode. Again, in the playoff mode for the Big West, because it's probably going to be a one-bid league. They play that tournament in Henderson where the Silver Knights play in Vegas in the month of March. But it's a couple of play-ins where the 1 seed and the 2 seed get an automatic spot in the semifinals. So if you could be one of those top 2 teams, you got a great chance of potentially making an NCAA tournament. You want to be one of those top 2 seeds. So they are going with a bracket that's similar to the West Coast Conference now, where the 5 will play the 8, the 6 will play the 7, and then those winners will play the 3 and the 4, and then those winners will play the 1 and the 2. So if you finish in the top 2, UC San Diego, you win 2 games, you're in the NCAA tournament. So that's what the Tritons are playing for right now as they get ready for conference play. I mean, you look at their non-conference schedule. There's, aside from San Diego State, who they had a valiant effort against, there's not a lot on their non-conference schedule that's going to be, games that are going to get them a bid, an at-large bid in the NCAA tournament. Big West is not good enough for them to probably get a multi-bid league. It depends on where the top players or the top teams are doing when it comes to non-conference play. But you look at the way the schedule lays out for UCSD, and the big first test will be against Irvine on January 11th here in La Jolla, and then again the other one's going to be on February 8th at UC Irvine. Those are 2 of the biggest games the Tritons are going to play all year.
San Diego State last night. Great to see the team looking good in their turquoise unis, throwing 100 up on the board. They played a Division III school, so honestly, let's not overdo it. It's great. It's great for San Diego State. Next week they play Gonzaga. They play a top 5 program in the nation. They welcome Gonzaga to Viejas Arena, and really all you need coming out of yesterday's game, some confidence for rotation guys to see big points next to their name. Aztecs shot the lights out last night, did something that you just don't think they're even able to do, which is throw in a ton of three-pointers, made 10 of their first 12 three-pointers in the game. And let's see, wound up at 18 three-pointers for the game on 40 tries. What? Wow, what the NBA coming to NCAA do we have there? Nonetheless, as long as the Aztecs can stay healthy and hopefully get Miles Bird back on the court, even if it's for 16 to 20 minutes against Gonzaga, that's going to be a whale of a game that we'll be talking about a week and a day from now.
Yeah, that's the big game. I mean, you got to get through this one, to be ready for the game on Monday. It sounds like San Diego State had a little bit of an injury with I think Miles Bird early in the contest, like during warmups, and they're hoping he could be able to play on Monday. That might be a game time decision for the Aztecs. I would imagine he plays against a school like Gonzaga, but we'll see what happens. And that's really the big first tester for San Diego State, and they got a big tournament coming up. In Vegas in the NIL tournament, and those are some tournaments that San Diego State could be a part of to try to boost their salaries, if you will, for some of their players. But you look at San Diego State upcoming. This is one of those games you kind of work out some kinks and get a lot of players an opportunity to play. But their next 3 games are Gonzaga, ranked 4 in the country, who already dismantled a Baylor team out of the best conference in college basketball in the Big 12. And then you got the 14th ranked Creighton Jays. And then you got Oregon. I mean, Oregon's a really good basketball team year in and year out, too. I know they struggled a little bit last night with Portland for a while. But, I mean, those are 3 really difficult games in a row. And then you already start a conference game because you play 18 conference games this year in the Mountain West Conference. So you got Fresno State on the road, and then you get to play USD. Cal Baptist is usually a team that could give you some problems. Play Cal, and then fully conference season. And remember, a conference season where the Aztecs were not picked to win the conference this year. So it's going to be a grueling task where you have to play everybody this year in both locations. So you got to go to Laramie, and you got to go to Logan, Utah, and you got to go to Fort Collins, and you got to go to the Pit, New Mexico. It's going to be a gauntlet for the Aztecs when they get to conference play. But that was the last of their games where you get to work out the kinks before you got to start playing a lot of big-time opponents.
All right, and lastly, and I know you were there last night, Portland State over USD 85-76. Torero's now 1-2 on the year, but you were telling me during the commercial break about a kid getting teed up in between taking free throws.
Yes.
So please tell everyone else.
Well, so last night, Portland State is really good. Portland State, they put up 92 points against Washington State and lost 192 in their first game. They played I think a D3 school on Evergreen State. I've never heard of them before, but they put up 131 points against Evergreen State. But Portland State coming into the game averaging 111 points per game. Obviously, it might be a little skewed. But they're a team that plays really tenacious and lights out, pesky defense, and then they shoot the lights out as well. I mean, they shot 47% from the three-point line last night, 8 for 17. They actually, at one point in the game, if it wasn't for the late free throws, they were shooting better from beyond the arc than they were at the free throw line. But they're a team that scores a lot of points. And at 19 minutes left in the second half, just starting the second half, Portland State had a 21-point lead on the Toreros, and then that's where the Toreros really started to catch fire. You had a great performance from the Toreros bench last night. Keon Kenzie dropped 20 points off the bench, which was good to see him really show out. You also had some good play out of guys like Cody Cluett, a local product out of San Marcos High School. Dragos Lungu kind of added some points late. Team's a lot better with Steven Jamerson the second in the lineup when he's out, and he usually gets into foul trouble, and he did it. But you had a lot of good contributors last night for the Toreros because KJ Bradley Jr. just did not. He got in foul trouble early, and he had 28 points against Boston, and then was in foul trouble early against the Toreros. He had like 3 fouls in the first 5 minutes of play, or his 5 minutes of play, 3 fouls and no points. Later in the contest, San Diego was pulled within 4 points, and then ultimately it ended up being 6 points. And KJ Bradley Jr. is at the free throw line, trying to make it again a 4-point game with 2 minutes to go, and he makes the first free throw, and then he gets a technical. And I think he said something to one of the Portland State players, and I don't know what he said, but all of a sudden I look up, and it's just bang, tee, and he gets teed up for his 4th personal foul. I mean, he was close to fouling out late in the game. He ends up fouling out, actually, at the end of the game. But in the middle of the free throws, they had to walk to the other side of the court, shoot the 2 technical foul shots, and they made them both make it an 8-point lead for Portland State, where San Diego was trying to make it a 4-point game. It ends up being an 8-point game. And then they have to go back, and KJ Bradley Jr. misses his second free throw. And then, at that point, it was kind of let the air out of the bag. But I had never seen anything like it. I have never seen somebody shooting free throws under 2 minutes to go, or just in general, and get teed up in the middle, in between shots 1 and 2, where the other team has to go shoot 2 free throws before you finish the second of the free throws. That happened last night. It's wild. Like in baseball where you see something new every single time. Yeah. Well, I guess you could apply it to basketball too.
A wrap-up of the night that was in local college hoops. Big win for UCSD. San Diego State romps against a D3 opponent, and nobody gets hurt. Great news. And for USD, wackadoodle technical fouls in the middle of a guy shooting 2. Okay. Yesterday afternoon, I was so ticked at Elo.
Oh, no.
I was ticked.
He gave you an Aztec shirt.
I know.
And then you flip from. Think about how much he had to piss you off to flip the script and be like,
Oh, I'm so mad.
After he gave you a gift.
I'm going to clean up his mess.
Oh, boy.
When we come back and tell a great baseball story right this time. And I'm going to pay off the tease right away and not at the end of a segment. All of that coming up next as the first hour of Annie and Elsten wraps up on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. This hour on 97.3 The Fan brought to you by Buffalo Wild Wings is football. Hey, San Diego sports fans, head to your local Buffalo Wild Wings and try their new maple chipotle sauce for rich maple sweetness and a mild smoky chipotle heat. Or for a bit of a kick, check out the new Cajun sauce for a rich blend of spicy and tangy pepper sauce. Stop by your San Diego B-Dubs or order now for takeout and delivery with Buffalo Wild Wings. Go. So, my son James Braden is 13. He's in a swim, I don't know what you call it, swim team. It's not a swim club, but
I think they call it. Don't they usually call it swim team?
I guess,
think
but
they
it's
do.
not for school. It's not
Right, it's like a club thing.
Yeah, and it's at the La Mesa Municipal Pool. So it's every Tuesday and Thursday, I take James to the pool. Usually Mitzi has got school responsibilities. She can't go pick him up. So I pick him up from school, and then I take him to swim. And then while he's swimming for 45, 50 minutes, I just kind of do my own laps walking around the pool area, get my steps in.
Yeah.
Right? So, hey, you get your exercise, I get some exercise too. Because what else am I going to do? Sit in the car for an hour, drive away and drive back, right? So I get my steps in. I do hot laps around the complex. And I enjoy listening to Gwen and Chris in the 4 o'clock hour, more and more, as the summer turns to the fall. They usually start the 4 o'clock hour with Chris versus the Fans. I always enjoy some good trivia. Always enjoy playing along, on the stream. So I just throw it on the YouTube channel on my phone, and I listen. And yesterday's Chris versus the Fans ended on a tiebreaker. And so they pick a player, just like a random player, and then they'll do a guess on that player's numbers. And, the contestant has to go higher or lower.
Gotcha.
Right? And that's how they wrap up their game when Chris is beating the Fans too heavily, and they're not, they need to end the segment.
Right.
So yesterday's player was Hall of Famer Larry Walker. And they did a thing about, did Larry Walker hit 342 when he won the batting title, higher or lower? And the answer was higher. He actually hit 379 one year. Pretty incredible. Larry Walker was a great, great hitter in Major League Baseball. And Chris went to break saying, but Larry Walker had one most famous moment in his career. And Tony was like, yeah, we'll talk about that when we come back, right? And so I'm doing laps around the pool, listening to the little music bed that Scrabes put for the commercial break. And I'm just excited because I figure I know what story they're going to do. But because Chris was such a Rockies fan, maybe there was like a really famous game for Larry Walker that I didn't remember, where he hit 6 for 6 with 4 homers or something, or hit the big hit that helped them in Rocktober. I don't know. So I was like waiting. And they got back from break, and I'm pretty sure Chris read the Buffalo Wild Wings read. And then they got into something, and then they got into something else, and then they got into a third thing, and then they were like 10 minutes into the segment, and I texted him, I'm like, Larry Walker, where's the story?
Yeah.
Like, I want to hear the story.
What's going on?
And so they got literally to the point where Scraby was taking the break, and he's like, oh, hang on. Craig wants to hear the story. And they finally paid off the story at the end of the segment. And they told it all wrong.
Oh, no.
They told it all wrong. They got like 4 of the details wrong. And the thing is, there's video for this great moment in baseball history. I've dropped the link, of course, in our rundown, Braden, because I'm a responsible human being. Larry Walker, Hall of Fame player, one of the great players of all time, was known for his two-way prowess. That's one of the things that made him such a great player, and especially back when he was with the Montreal Expos. He was known as one of the best arms, one of the best fielders in right field in Major League Baseball. So
You want audio with this?
I do, but let me just set this up. So when they told the story, it was like it was 1999, and it was somewhere, and it was this and that, and he was with the Rockies, and it was all wrong. He was with the Expos. It's so much better when you see the real thing. This was April 1994. This was the strike year, the year that never actually ended. But in April, all hope sprung eternal, and Montreal was actually the best team in baseball that year. This was Sunday Night Baseball. I watched this game live. I remember it pretty specifically. But a couple of details I had forgotten. 1994, Sunday Night Baseball. John Miller, Joe Morgan in the broadcast booth. They're interviewing Hall of Famer Maury Wills as Jose Offerman is on first with one out, and future Hall of Famer Mike Piazza at the plate against future Hall of Famer Pedro Martinez. Piazza is going to hit a one-out fly ball to Larry Walker in right field. Let's now let the video and the audio tell the story.
Piazza in the end of right field. Larry Walker in foul territory. Now Offerman tagged up on that play. And Walker doesn't know how many outs there were. He gave it. Offerman will go back to third.
Well, wait a minute. This is something I don't understand. I think Walker gave the ball to a fan.
He thought that was the third out.
Yeah, but how can they? I don't understand how. Well, I guess it's like a throw into the seats. Okay, I guess that's what they're saying. It's like a throw into the seats. You get two bases. Even though he didn't throw it in, he gave it to someone.
I'm surprised.
3 out.
I'm surprised Walker remembered to show up tonight.
You get two bases beyond the base you already have.
Right. See, and he gives it to that kid.
Yeah.
Here's the funny part. He goes back to get it, though. That's what's funny.
Yeah.
And what if the kid doesn't give it to him?
Right now, at this point, Offerman is still on the way to second base, which means he only gets third.
Now watch. So he goes back to get the ball.
The kid hands it to him. He knows. He's like,
Maury.
Yeah.
It's often said that you see something new all the time in the ballpark. Have you ever seen that?
Well, I haven't, but maybe nothing like that, John.
that's awesome.
As they put up on the chyron below him, Larry Walker has 1-2 straight gold gloves.
They had he didn't even yell at the kid I need the ball back. The kid just literally holds it out for him, and he's like, oh yeah, throws it in.
So our boss is asking a question in the chat, and the answer is, which actually they explained in that clip, the ruling from the umpires was that the ball was thrown out of play, just like if the second baseman on the relay of a double play chucked it into the crowd, you get two bases from the original base you were on. So Jose Offerman, who was on first base, was awarded third base. So if the kid had refused to give Larry Walker the ball back, it would certainly be a different clip, but it would have been the same outcome. It would have still been a runner at third base with two outs. But the beauty of it is the sheepishness with which Larry Walker runs back, how the kid, because this is a ball-playing kid. He came with a glove to the game at Dodger Stadium, right? He looks like he's 9 or 10 years old. The kid holds the ball out to Larry like he's part of the play.
Yes.
Like, here you go, Larry. And okay, you need it. Here you go, Larry. And then he goes back and talks to the family. And of course, he went back and gave them an autographed ball and, did all of that later in the game. But one of the great moments of the 90s in baseball.
That's awesome.
Cleaned that up for you, Chris.
Come on, Chris.
Cleaned that up for you. And that's how the first hour comes to an end. When we come back, Chris Reed from the Padres Hot Tub Podcast joins us. A lot of Padres talk in the next half hour. Stay right here on 97.3 The Fan. No. It's just starting. It's the 11 a.m. hour of Annie and Elsten. It's not over. It's literally beginning now, right now. Craig Elsten, Braden Soprenet here with you. In fact, this hour and baseball coverage on 97.3 The Fan presented by T-Mobile. Head to T-Mobile.com and get a great deal on an iPhone 16 Pro. If it was over, it wouldn't be sponsored by T-Mobile. It's hour number 2 of Annie and Elsten. Annie off today, back tomorrow. Craig Elsten, Braden Soprenet. We are live on 97.3 FM radio. We are streaming worldwide on the Odyssey app, AUDACY, free to download, free to use. We are a podcast being divvied up from the past, sent into the future on all podcast platforms. And we are a live video show on 97.3 The Fans page on YouTube. 15 straight hours of YouTube television today. Go check it out. Search for 97.3 The Fan. Find the show. If you're in the chat right now, give us that little thumbs up. Smash the like button. It always helps the program. We like to talk Padres in the 11 a.m. hour. And right now, excited to welcome on the 97.3 The Fan hotline, debut appearance on the Annie and Elsten show for the co-host of the Padres Hot Tub podcast, longtime San Diego working actor Chris Reed is joining us now on Annie and Elsten. What's happening, Chris? How is life treating you this morning?
Hello, my friend Craig. Good to hear from you, and that is why life is treating me wonderfully.
Oh, well, if that's all it takes. I mean, just lob you a phone call every day. You'll have a great life.
I mean, gosh, if only we had the time.
I mean, listen, just send me a text. I'll call you for 2 minutes, like every day. Just be like, hey, what's up? Okay, see ya. So just, again, first a note of introduction for the folks who may have heard of you or seen you, but wondered where you were, like kind of your journey, both as a working actor and as a Padres fan.
My journey started in San Diego on top of a hill overlooking Mission Valley when I was born at the UCSD Medical Center. A lot of stuff happened. There was fishing. There was some baseball playing. And then there was the bright lights beckoned. I went to Madison High School, graduated in 2002, and then went on to Mesa, did all the San Diego working class stuff. Did my first professional play at the La Jolla Playhouse in 2008, working on a show called Tobacco Road. In 2010, they welcomed me back to Midsummer Night's Dream, and in that same year, I got my television career started on Sons of Anarchy. I was then brought on to a podcast about a decade later, and now I am out of the basement, the little stepbrother dragging himself out onto the radio show.
Appreciate you very much. Right on, man. So it's great to have you here. And again, second year that you're part of the Padres Hot Tub show, which comes out weekly, usually on Mondays. All right, we got a few different Padres things to hit. Oh, Adam in the chat asks which character on Sons of Anarchy, and that is Phil, right?
Yeah. Filthy Phil.
Filthy Phil.
If you would like to get as specific as you can, Filthy Phil Russell of Tracy, California.
Yeah, one of the original prospects. From what I remember my run through SOA. Okay, so we got, like I said, a handful of different Padres things to get to while we got you on the show here for a couple of segments. Yesterday, this show involved a lot of Roki Sasaki talk. And I heard the boys this morning discuss it as well. I've read plenty of the, from Jeff Passan on down and through all the different discussions in terms of trying to seed the field and figure out, where this kid might go. And to be honest, Chris, I feel like there's a lot of importance to this decision. And not just to this year for the San Diego Padres, but to the 2020s. And I don't want to be hyperbolic about it, but Roki Sasaki feels like a missing piece in this organization. Feels like the ace starter, the young ace that comes through the minors that we've traded away 4 or 5 times, that instead can just be plopped onto the team through recruitment and hard work, as opposed to financial advantage or anything else. The idea of him coming here changes a lot of things for the San Diego Padres. The idea of him going to L.A. also changes a lot of things, and not in the favor of the San Diego Padres. So I feel like there's almost an outweighed importance to this decision. What do you think?
I think it's extremely important. And you're absolutely right. We saw Chris Paddock as our next burgeoning ace who is coming up. He got traded away. Mackenzie Gore followed him. Then guys that we never even got to see that were supposed to be that role, the Dylan Leskos and the Robbie Snellings. And yeah, it would be a huge piece. The way I thought about it is I remember last year when Paul Skeens had been drafted, and they were talking about his sheer value within Major League Baseball's economic system. He got drafted number 1, so he gets a pretty sizable bonus. I think it's in the low tens of millions. It was record, maybe it was $10 million, we'll call it that. And then he's under team control for 3 years for nothing. And then he gets arbitration where he'll probably make like $50-60 million. But even if you put a starting pitcher of Paul Skeens' caliber at $25 million a year, that's $150 million worth of value for $50-60 million. So the club's purely going to make a lot of money in value just off of Paul Skeens. And Roki Sasaki is to that caliber. So even if you look at it as just like a free $100 million his signing team gets, man, that's almost like winning a World Series in terms of impact on the club. So it's certainly huge. The only counter I would offer is this exact same circumstance was facing the Padres, 7 years ago or so when Shohei Ohtani came over. And Padres infamously, finished second or so in that running. And the team that got Ohtani has not quite had their fortunes altered in any way by signing him, did they?
No, but they're also the Angels. So
they are very much the Angels.
There's important context there. I think Ohtani's year in LA shows us, he's not a bad player, not a bad guy to have on the team. Yeah. I just really think, Chris, about the optionality that Roki Sasaki provides were he to become a San Diego Padre, because then all of a sudden, not only can you project parts of your rotation through the 2020s, but it gives you an opportunity to maybe get creative this winter in terms of, okay, if you've added a Sasaki, you've got King, you've got Darvish locked in, you've got Cease, well, maybe now you might have an opportunity to make a trade and do kind of a sideways move that allows you to fill other needs without breaking the bank.
I mean, the dude will be giving you, he'll cost $1 million. He'll cost league minimum, just almost like Jurickson Profar did. Almost like Jurickson Profar gave you a superstar's worth of production for league minimum, just about. That's what Roki Sasaki's going to do, almost guaranteed, and he could be better than that. This dude could be one of the league's top 3 or 5 best pitchers. It's huge, Craig, and I know AJ Preller has been thinking about this dude in his sleep for years and years. So I have a ton of faith in the organization's effort in trying to get this guy. Like, I feel like if it's possible that Roki Sasaki could want to come to San Diego and beat LA, the Padres will lock him up.
We're talking to Chris Reed from the Padres Hot Tub Podcast here on Annie and Elsten. There's nothing we can say. All we can do is hope that he doesn't post until the first week of December at the earliest, at which point we can start to get irrationally excited. Everything until then is just wait and hope for radio silence. It's kind of an awkward situation when it comes to Roki Sasaki. And with that, I'll just say, as we get ready to transition topics, every single article that you read between here and there doesn't mean anything. It's just somebody trying to get you to open up their article or open up their website, and it's going to contain the same speculation. And until he posts, that's all you can do is speculate.
his choice of agent, it's all just information that either makes you feel good or bad, right? And his choice of agent makes us feel pretty good. It's not Scott Boras. It's the same dude who represented Yamamoto and represents Yu Darvish.
Correct.
So it's we can read the tea leaves all we like pour them, drain that tea out, look at the leaves, tell them what you say. Life is good being a Padres fan because we are in these conversations, like I know AJ Preller, these are the margins he intends to try to win on. Like this is his focus. And we've talked about the celebration of life comments and all that. I'm not famously not a betting man at all, Craig. So I'm not going to put any wagers down, but I like our odds a lot, man. And, the story's good. It's kind of weird in sports that Roki Sasaki is going to cost himself $100 million at bare minimum. At bare minimum doing this. But he's doing the thing that we want athletes to do. We want them to push for the higher competition. We don't want him to sign with the Dodgers and do the easy thing. We want him to do the Admiral thing and sacrifice, but that's just the type of things that MLB teams get to exploit, and get all this free value. It's weird how the world works. I'm fascinated by Roki Sasaki. I'm looking forward to seeing him play. It better be in brown and gold, Roki. Let's do it, bud.
All right, Chris, let's switch attention. Earlier in the show, Braden and I talked about a couple of the three Padres who picked up Silver Slugger awards yesterday. Obviously, a year of redemption for Manny Machado at the end after a tough start to the year and a lot of stuff sent his way as he was recovering from elbow surgery. For Jackson Merrill, just an incredible rookie year, gets another Silver Star on the top of it. But I saved Jurickson Profar for this segment. Jurickson gets his first Silver Slugger. I don't think that in any way affects his market. It's just another shiny thing that's on the resume. The decision makers are going to make their decisions based on things beyond voted upon awards. Nonetheless, my question to you is there a price that isn't silly in terms of, if Jurickson comes back at $3 million a year, we'd love to have him, right? Like, of course, everyone
sure.
Would. But is there a price that is not silly that you believe the Padres should spend to keep Jurickson Profar, or is it a matter of just seeing where the market goes, even if it just sweeps him away?
It's all about context, right? Jurickson plays corner outfield. And the Padres have a few guys that at least are near Major League Baseball level with that. Tyler Lockhart, Eggy Rosario got some outfield reps last year. Terso Ornelas was the team's minor league player of the year in the outfield and is doing good so far in the Mexican League. There are bodies there. There are no bodies in the starting pitching. Ryan Bergert is a dude they wanted to be there, and he's getting blown up in AFL. Like the upper tier of pitching is not good. So the team needs to have depth there somehow. So if paying Jurickson keeps them from solidifying the depth in the rotation, I'm not sure that's the best move. But the dude's smile is worth, 17 vibes above replacement. He's going to be he's like an intrinsic, intangible part of the club's success in 2024, and I do think it was a successful year. So if there's a way to reward him and meet the club's needs and keep him in the clubhouse, I'm about it. I'm just not sure that's a possibility. It just depends on his market, man. If Jurickson signs before January 1st, he won't be a Padre. Like if I feel like they're gonna wait on him almost to the point of like if he gets a good deal, he'll be gone.
Yeah, that's an interesting line. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like if they wait it out, he won't it won't work out well for him like it didn't last year in his free agency.
You would think that Jurickson would want some clarity because I think the
Yeah.
panic button is going to be smashed at some time around January 15th if he doesn't have a deal. Stay right there, Chris. Let's take a time out here on 97.3 The Fan. When we come back on Annie and Elsten, more Padres talk. And I want to lean on something that The Athletic was talking about this morning in an article as well. It's been a successful strategy back-to-back years. Very successful strategy for the San Diego Padres. Finding a reliever on the market to convert to a starting pitcher, either via trade, well, you can go back to Nick Martinez. You could say for 3 years, taking a guy who's been a relief pitcher, making him into a starting pitcher. Could the Padres do it again? Who would be an in-house candidate? Who could be a candidate on the market? Chris and I are going to get into that. Braden here right alongside. It's Annie and Elsten, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. The Odyssey app lets you jump back to moments you missed on 97.3 The Fan. So while you're listening to the station, you can see what you missed and click to listen on demand. If you missed a guest, maybe like the first segment of our Chris Reed interview, we've got you covered. Download the free Odyssey app, search 97.3 The Fan, tap earlier today, and you can get started. Craig and Braden back with you. Annie off today. She'll be back tomorrow. Chris Reed joining us on the hotline for a second segment here, co-host of the Padres Hot Tub podcast. Tell everyone how they can listen to and support your show.
You can listen to us just about anywhere you get your podcasts, the Apple ones and all those other places. I also have lots of different programs on your streaming services. If you Google my name in Amazon Prime, you'll see my show. My show, which is probably what would be on Prime. Oh my goodness, Goliath, famously Chris Reed's show, Goliath.
Oh yes,
yeah.
I think Billy Bob Thornton was on that too.
Is that the guy that kind of looks like Timothy Oliphant?
Kind of a little bit. It's shorter.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I remember him. He was there.
Fair enough. Let's get into this. Is a little bit more abstract, Chris, but I was reading Eno Sarris's latest piece on The Athletic today, and it was looking at relievers who, based on their raw stuff, made sense as being able to convert to becoming a starting pitcher. The Padres had two names toward the very top of that list, and a departing free agent as well. Tanner Scott was second on the top of the list. Jeremiah Estrada and Robert Suarez were quick to follow. Now, I don't see a starting pitching future for either Jeremiah Estrada or Robert Suarez. Would you agree with that?
I certainly do. Yeah.
It's like, no. Keep them where they are. Keep them in maybe the ninth and the eighth inning, or maybe the seventh, respectively. But one of the names Eno Sarris did bring up in the piece was Adrian Morejon. And interesting in that he was signed out of Cuba to be a starter. He started at some point in the minor leagues, but has always battled injuries at various points. He had his healthiest year last year. He pitched 72 innings for the San Diego Padres. That's a nice number coming out of the bullpen for San Diego, and he would fit an obvious need in the bullpen next year as well. Do you see a logical argument for the Padres to try and take the Seth Lugo, Michael King route with Morejon?
Yes, with a big old asterisk, a big old question mark. We've known this guy for so long now. Like, Adrian Morejon has been in our Padres fans' lives for like a decade. And like, we've been along for this journey, and it's had some canyons in it, mostly caused by injury. So that would be the worry, is, dialing up the innings number. Is it going to lead to him having another setback? And he's also at a really perilous point for his career. I think he's going to be a 4-year arbitration guy. So that means the club would get him one more year. He just changed agents. He was repped by Scott Boras and fired him and hired his arch nemesis, Dan Lozano. So, like, his camp is going to have a plan for him to maximize that free agent contract. A lot of times that includes getting some games started, on the baseball reference page. So I do think some things line up for it. I think that the dude still has a lot of unrealized potential. I mean, the computer test passes because Eno's writing about it, but his eye test passed all year long. I mean, going back to spring training, he was making hitters look bad, and his velocity, if it stayed up all year, man, if he can build up and do it, and they can get 110 out of him, go the Mike King route, I think he's a good candidate. I think Brian Hoeing's a good candidate too.
Yeah, I do as well. What do you think, Braden, about Morejon? Because I look back in the minor leagues when he was 18 and 19 years old, he was a starting pitcher, but it was in that, you're so young, we're going to pitch you 2 innings. You know, he had, for example, 14 starts, 65 innings, 16 starts, 36 innings. There's no depth there on Morahone in his past. He's had all of the injury history, 9 career starts in Major League Baseball. I love the arm, but I feel like you're letting Tanner Scott go. His value in the bullpen is so high.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, starting pitching that's what wins in the postseason more than the bullpen pieces. I mean, you want to have as much starting pitching as possible. My thing is, and I agree with Chris with Brian Hoeing, I think it's a big reason why Brian Hoeing was brought over here was the potential for him to be a starter, because you're trying to find starting pitchers on this team when you have, and they obviously knew some information about Joe Musgrove and where everything was with your aging starting rotation. I don't know. I mean, this is what spring training's for, right? Let's try to build them up early, and then if it doesn't work, you can always move them back to the bullpen. But if you put them in the bullpen to start, you're going to have to send them down to the minor leagues to ramp up innings. You can't have them do that at the major league level in the middle of the season. So I think where the Padres are at right now, I think they have a lot of opportunities to give guys opportunities for a starting rotation spot in spring training. The Johnny Britos of the world and the Randy Vasquez and the Matt Waldrons, guys that we know are starting pitchers, but then also the Adrian Morahones and the Brian Hoeings. I mean, those are like that's 5 to 6 guys that they have in their organization that they could go after it in spring training and compete, and I think that's gonna be great results anyway when you got competition. And then if it doesn't work out, I think this is really the final year that you can try that with Adrian Morahone, as Chris mentioned, because of everything of what he talked about with flipping agents and where he's at in his years. I mean, this is kind of the make or break spot, I think, for him, at least in a Padres uniform, of whether or not they think he can start. So to me, when you go to spring training, I think you got to open up the competition for all of those players for the final 2 spots of the rotation. I still think you should go add and go get a veteran arm somewhere, but I think that's what spring training's for, is to see what you got with some of these guys.
Yeah, I like it. We got to figure it out, and we got to do it on the cheap. Potentially. Last thing for you here, Chris, and I saw you talking about it in the Padres Hot Tub Discord over the last couple of days as well. And Braden and I will talk about this more on the other side, because I know you were chatting with JT Rogan at the USD game the other day.
Yes.
JT had this kind of out of nowhere tweet yesterday saying he talked to Blake Snell, and Blake Snell would love to pitch in San Diego, but he's not sure, is ownership committed to future spending? Basically a parrot of what Scott Boras would have said to Blake about it. I know you're a big Blake Snell fan. I'm a big Blake Snell fan. Again, is there a universe? Is there a universe where you trade a starter and that creates some financial flexibility? Would it make sense? Is there any world that makes sense to get the next 4 to 5 years of Blake Snell's career, or more? It might take more to lock him in at an affordable number.
Yes, of course there is. Blake Snell, and I had a little mini argument that I didn't get too into in the Discord, but this is a fact. Blake Snell can be the best pitcher in Major League Baseball. Like, that is his ceiling. The dude has 2 Cy Youngs and is responsible for arguably the best World Series performance by a starting pitcher in the last 15 years. Now, that's arguable. You can open it up all you want. Point is, the dude is amazing. The reality of the situation is very similar to last year, where we knew the Padres had a budget and Blake Snell was well outside of it. What's different is that the market spoke resoundingly against Blake Snell last year, especially when it comes to length. And he wound up getting a 1-year deal worth $30 million. If the Padres could get creative like they have with so many other deals, with player options and team options on the back end, give Blake a lifetime deal, give him the 7 years, make the AAV comparable to what you gave Joe and you, it's going to be a hit. Blake Snell's agent, Mr. Boras, won't like it at all, but we have seen Boras clients re-sign with teams kind of beyond Scott's initial wishes. So, like, there's a world, man. They can get creative, give him a lifetime deal, and then we get Blake Snell. I think having guys like him on the squad is awesome for the organization. I see Blake Snell's Instagram with him reaching out within his community of his hometown in the Northwest. I think he's a great presence. I think he'd bring a lot of value to the club and can be the best pitcher in baseball. So, yes, there's a world. It could happen.
I just don't know if it's the world we're living in, but
yes, I get it.
But maybe on Earth 616, it's an absolute possibility. All right, Chris, on the way out, anything to promote anywhere that you want people to track you, whether on the gram or anywhere else?
Instagram, I'm at Chris Reed 619. Everywhere on the internet, I am Chris Reed 619. You can find me out there. I have a few things that will be launching. Nothing huge though, but they'll be out there, and you can follow there. And of course, Padres Hot Tub Podcast is where I really, really live. Thank you for letting me come have a fun time in the sunshine, Craig.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you for being on the show. Chris Reed joining us from the Padres Hot Tub. When we come back, Brady and I keep the baseball talk going. Is there even a world where the Padres can stay under the CBT this winter? If so, what does that look like? I feel like we're getting our answer as the market starts to coalesce, and we'll talk about it when we come back. Andy and Elsten go until 2. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Man, so much stuff to get to in the Sports Fix today. Huge night of NBA news. Major League Baseball, I've got Annie's Beat covered today. Got all that on lock for you. Braden's got all the football news for you. College basketball as well. It's all coming up at 12 o'clock. Stay right here. Thanks to Chris Reed for joining us the last couple of segments from the Padres Hot Tub Podcast. Annie off today. If you're just tuning in, Craig and Braden here with you till 2 o'clock. And, you know, the more we talk about it, and I heard Ben and Woods talk about it at 7:30, 8 a.m. segments today as well here on 97.3 The Fan. The more you look at it, the harder it is to imagine a world where the Padres sell us on 2025 being a go-for-it year and that they could stay under the competitive balance tax. I get that mixed up.
Collective bargaining will be in 2026.
Yeah. The CB, I just hit that.
CBA,
CBA,
CBT,
I get it mixed up.
CBX, CBQ, CB.
Precisely. So
Insert letter here.
that's why I like to say luxury tax.
Yes, a lot easier to say.
Yeah, I think it's almost impossible. According to Fangraphs, the Padres basically are at or slightly over the luxury tax number today.
Currently.
Yeah, just doing nothing but just re-signing their arbitration players to their expected numbers already over. So how the hell do we make the team better and stay under?
It's impossible, almost, unless you start jettisoning players on this team that are expected to make money, a la Luis Ariz, a la Dylan Cease, a la Jake Cronenworth. Do you think anybody would take Jake Cronenworth?
I think he's on the verge of being tradable.
I think he's very close. I mean,
Yeah.
the way contracts are handed out right now, like, is he more valuable to your team than Travis d'Arnaud?
Well, he's getting paid by a CBA number. He's getting paid double d'Arnaud, right? D'Arnaud's 2 for 12. Jake's AAV is 11-ish.
Right.
11-ish. He's far more valuable than Travis d'Arnaud, a backup catcher.
But $11 million, I mean, you're going to see guys fly off the board for way more than $11 million that are probably not better than Jake Cronenworth. Should the Padres trade Jake Cronenworth?
When we did the sneaky trade segment a couple of weeks ago, Cronenworth and Suarez were the two guys who stood out. Suarez because he's got value. He's going to get paid $10 million this year, and then he's got an opt-out. So he really doesn't have long-term stability in San Diego beyond 2025. As long as he has another good year, he's opting out guaranteed. The only way he's sticking around is if he gets hurt. And that's not the kind of deal that the Padres want to be thinking about. So I think Suarez is a guy, and I think Cronenworth could be a guy. It depends how you want to fill things out. Depends how you want to lock in on a rise, potentially. You can't play him as a second baseman, but if you have a transition plan that allows you to return Xander to second next year while keeping shortstop warm for DeVries a year or two later, then you could, not that you should, but you could move Jake Cronenworth.
They didn't give him a full no trade, did they?
No, but he can block it to 8 teams, and I think he can pick the 8 every year.
Okay. Try to be savvy with that. I was going to say, I bet you the Tigers would take him.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't he be a pretty good fit for them?
I think so. I mean, obviously, it'd be a home for him, too. Be able to play in front of his home crowd in Michigan. I just think it's the way Jake played last year. He has played up to his contract where it's not an albatross at $11.2 million, $12.2. I mean, the most you'd ever have to pay him is $12.2 million. He's already at 30 years old, and if you're trying to, cut some payroll, the Suarez one made a lot more sense because as a closer, closers are making way more than what he's making, and it makes sense for a contender to trade for a guy like Suarez. Plus, with the opt-out, there's no guarantee that he's going to come back anyway for the Padres, so that was a definite one for me. But the Jake Cronenworth, the more I look at it, the more I'm intrigued about potentially throwing him in a trade. I mean, you'd be able to free up some money. You wouldn't be on the hook for paying him until he is 31, 32, 33, 34 years old, right? We've seen a lot of up and downs with Jake Cronenworth, but that is, that's $11.4 million that you can work with if you really want to stay underneath the CBT. Even if you don't, I mean, you could make a move like that and then be able to spend money elsewhere on some other guys in the pitching department, or maybe some other players that are available, some younger players that you can get on the market. It really opens up your pocketbook and kind of your different plans that you could potentially do if you're able to do that. And I'm not necessarily against that motion at this point in time.
Yeah, I'll say the thing I say about every single time that we discuss trades, which is it always depends on what you get back, and it always depends on where all of that lands. So when we talk about trading someone, I'm not saying on the radio like I think he must leave the team or, yes, absolutely, we need to trade Jake Cronenworth. No, it's if the right deal is out there, that would be one way that you could help manage future years' debts and obligations because, again, Manny's contract gets more expensive. Fernando's contract gets more expensive. Xander just stays locked in at 25.8, year after year after year. You gets more expensive this year. And so as a result, anything you can do that could give you a little flexibility come 26, 27, 28, those are the years you need to think about if you're talking about signing a free agent. Right? Like any world where you were signing Blake Snell to a long-term deal, you need to understand how you can build a team beyond the obligations you have 27, 28, 29, the rest of this decade.
I think it opens the door to do a lot of different things. And again, with, I'm not sitting here going like, oh, if you trade Jake Cronenworth, you can get a bunch of prospects. I mean, whatever you get out of it's great. I mean, to me, that would be a salary dump move more than anything else. And what you get out of it is what you get out of it. And if you can kind of help facilitate some of your minor leagues and kind of start rebuilding that farm system, I think you have some worth in Jake Cronenworth. I think you got some in Suarez. I think you got a lot in guys like Dylan Cease or Michael King. But again, as you mentioned to start the segment, is you got to be in go for it mode and saving money mode. It's kind of hard to have your cake and eat it too at that point in time. But those are the players that are, to me, valuable, because you don't have that Juan Soto that you had last year where it's an easy decision, $30-something million off the books, and you get a plethora of players coming back. You would have to make a couple of these moves. You would have to trade. You would probably almost have to trade all four of those players to get the same type of haul in terms of talent back like you did last year with Juan Soto.
Yeah, I mean, the one, I think if you were rating players that you actually could move, because, listen, Fernando Tatis Jr. would be the most valuable player on the Padres if you put him on the market, even with the contract that he has. But you're not going to do that.
No.
Why would you do that? It makes no sense to do that.
Why would you upset everybody?
Manny Machado is untradeable. Xander Bogaerts is untradeable. So you kind of go down the list. Joe Musgrove is hurt. He's untradeable. Yu Darvish, you wouldn't, trade a guy like that. So you look down the list, and to me, the one player that would get you back the most is probably still Dylan Cease.
Oh, yeah.
I think in the 1 year of Cease is still so presumably reliable on the market. He'll give you 180 innings. He'll give you 220 strikeouts. He'll give you those kind of baseline things that a GM is looking for. And the fact that he's almost undoubtedly gone at the end of 2025, you could offer him a qualifying offer. You could get a draft pick compensation, a couple years down the road. It's a long way from there to getting return on Dylan Cease. I'm not again, just like when we talk about Cronenworth, I'm not advocating trading Dylan Cease. I'm just noting where the value could be on the roster, because really the thought exercise Braden and I are going through this segment is if not you, the listener,
not you, Darvish.
Not you, Darvish. If Eric Consenta is in the listening audience, you. If Eric Grupner is in the listening audience, you. The executives, the top brass, the ownership of the Padres, if it's their determination that the Padres can't live over the CBT, then some really, really tough decisions have to be made, and they really have to be made now, so that then you go out into the market with full knowledge.
Well, yeah, this is what you have to do, right? I mean, as much as and Craig likes to say that, so nobody just jumps on us for saying you wanted to trade these guys. Well, I don't really want to trade anybody on the Padres, but in order to get something back, you have to give something up. I mean, these are the decisions that are being made. It's not always where you could just trade a bunch of guys that are no-name guys that are never going to amount to anything in Major League Baseball to bring in the best players, and then all of a sudden they're not, there's only so many times you can fleece the Marlins for Luis Arias where they pay for his entire contract. I mean, that's not a given every single time, and Preller's done a great job with a lot of trades. He's done a poor job with a lot of trades. I mean, you don't win every trade. I mean, even the best general managers in Major League Baseball and the best presidents of baseball operations, they don't always make the best trades. I mean, they don't win every single one, even though it seems like some organizations do from time to time. So these are the questions that you'd have to ask for a lot of these players. And if you start looking at some of these guys, like, if you could trade away some of these players, maybe all of a sudden, this is, again, the creativity, then you could bring back a Blake Snell, as we discussed with Chris Reed. I mean, you could bring back some of the players that the Padres used to have that are free agents now that you'd love to see back. And it's all about allocating your funds the best way possible to bring in the most talent. And if you have to jettison some funds that happen to be some players that people like, then you have to do that. I mean, we talked about last offseason about potentially trading Ha-Seong Kim. Craig is a huge Ha-Seong Kim fan, and it's like, hey, we might have to get rid of this guy now. This is what his value is. I mean, these are the decisions you have
look what
to
happened.
make.
They whiffed on that.
Right. They
Straight up,
totally
that was a
got rid of
mistake. In hindsight,
Right.
It was a mistake to keep Ha-Seong Kim. Now, you couldn't know that he would have the most underwhelming first half of his career and follow that up with an injury that would cost him the end of the season. No one could know that, so it's unfair to put that filter on it. Nonetheless, in hindsight and retrospect, the Padres will get nothing for Ha-Seong Kim. They didn't offer him a qualifying offer. They couldn't. They're not going to re-sign him. There's no chance. So that was a missed opportunity last winter. That's value.
Right.
And it's a bet, right, Brady?
Yes.
Every year it's a bet. What value am I going to get from this player this year versus the value that he is perceived at on the market? The Padres made a bet that Kim would outperform that value, and they lost the bet.
Well, and the other thing, too, is a lot of people, and the Xander Bogaerts contract is not good, and he hasn't played up to that contract yet. He's he's signed for a long period of time, and he's 32 years old, and everything that goes with that. You can't just trade that player away like you would be able to in a video game, because nobody's going to want to take that deal. And if you're going to trade him away, you're going to still have to pay probably $280 million that you owe to him, or whatever it is now, that you would have to pay for him to go away. And if you're going to spend the money for him, you might as well keep him on the team. He's not that bad to your team. Those are not the players you can trade. You have to understand that, not every team is dumb. They're not going to just acquire players just because you don't want them on your team anymore. And I know we have to explain that a lot, but what's very interesting, I know we don't have time to discuss it right now, maybe a little bit later after the Sports Fix, but Adam Paul put in the chat, and we talked about it off air, about the Diamondbacks willing to trade Montgomery and eat money because of how bad of a decision they thought it was. Padres have traded for starting pitching from the Diamondbacks in the past. Do you remember the last starting pitcher we acquired from the Diamondbacks?
Last starting pitcher we acquired from the Diamondbacks? No, who?
Ian Kennedy.
Ooh, hey.
Traded within division, right? So regardless of how that worked out, I would be willing. I would be willing if they're going to eat some of the money. Why not acquire a player whose organization already said this is the biggest mistake we've ever made signing this guy, who, to spite them, opted into his contract because he's obviously upset with this. Why not put him on the division rival on the San Diego Padres and then throw him against the Diamondbacks all the time? I think with Ruben Niebla, I think you could fix the problems he might have had. But remember, he was a late sign. Those late sign pitchers are never ready to go. Hardly ever. We saw that with Blake Snell.
Yeah.
Saw that with Blake Snell, right?
Absolutely.
I'd be willing to trade for Montgomery if they're willing to eat money. Now, if they're only eating like $5-10 million, then it's a waste of my time. But if they pull Miami Marlins, You need a lot of that
Yeah,
contract.
what do you want?
Sounds
Arizona?
good.
What do you want?
I honestly think that's not a bad move. What do you think? For the
Do you want
right
Suarez?
deal,
Suarez from Montgomery.
I'd do
You want
that.
you want to face Bobby Bullets coming out of the Arizona bullpen, but you got Montgomery on our side. Challenge trade.
We'll take Montgomery for the first 7 innings, and hopefully we get a lead before we have to take.
So let's see.
Bobby
What's he get?
Bullets.
He gets 22 next year. So you give us $12 million and Montgomery. We give you Suarez. Now the money pencils out exactly the same
Yeah.
because Suarez gets 10 next year.
Are the
Hell yeah,
Diamondbacks
I'd
in
make that deal.
Are the Diamondbacks in a position? Honestly, it's a pretty fair deal, right? It's like because at the end of the day, it's like Robert Suarez can opt out, and Jordan Montgomery's only got a year left on his deal.
Right. Yeah. So everyone's in the same spot at the end of 2025.
I don't think it's a bad idea. I mean, both teams get better relatively. I mean, if the Diamondbacks really don't want Jordan Montgomery, they get a closing pitcher for him.
Hey, they need the help. Need the help in the bullpen.
And I'm not one of those people. I used to be when you're like a diehard fan, but then when you start working in the business, you lose a little bit of your fandom. I'm not part of that group that thinks you can't trade with a division rival because you hate them. If I make my team better, I'm making my team better regardless of who I'm trading with. So I'm not opposed to trading with the Diamondbacks or the Rockies or the Dodgers or the Giants, even if it's future guys. If you make your ball club better, you know what? It's just another team out there, especially if you're making your decisions better than the other organizations making theirs.
Okay, let's go get Jordan Montgomery. I'm set. Ken Kendrick's mad. You know, the last time an owner was mad, made a great deal. We got Tatis for Shields.
Correct.
Just take advantage of angry owners.
That's what I'm saying. Like they're making an emotional decision and not a logical decision. Might as well take advantage of it. I am open to the idea.
I'd say the odds are very, very low.
Yes.
But I'm willing to entertain those odds.
I'm sure AJ Preller's already had 5 conversations with Arizona.
Roll the bones. What do you say, Arizona? What do you say, Mr. Hazen? Get wild. Make a deal in division. Ain't gonna hurt. Not too bad. Well, maybe it will. 12 o'clock Sports Fix is next on the Andy and Elsten. The lunch hour has arrived, the midpoint of the week. It is 12 o'clock on Wednesday. Welcome back, everybody, to Annie and Elsten, your midday hang on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Annie is off today with alternate work responsibilities, and she will be back tomorrow. Look forward to that, but I'm Craig Elsten with Braden Soprenet. We're together in our Odyssey studios overlooking balmy, sunny, beautiful Murphy Canyon. 2 more hours left in the program. Gwen and Chris come up after that. And as you unwrap or unfoil or microwave or you stick the fork in the plastic on the frozen stuff, chung, 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 chung. Whatever you're doing to get hungry, we're hungry to give you all the sports news of the day. Here we go with your daily midday sports report on Annie and Elsten. It's the 12 o'clock sports fix. Normally, I toss it over to Annie for the baseball story, but no Annie. So here I am with the baseball story. Me and Braden are just going to throw the hot potato back and forth until the segment's over.
Are you going to be like that play-by-play guy and just pretend to be somebody else's voice?
Right? Well, that was a heck of a hit there, Braden.
That's right.
Here we go with your baseball story for today. Wasn't too long ago that Wander Franco was the top prospect in all of baseball, owner of a lifetime contract with the Tampa Bay Rays, face of the franchise. Well, Franco will probably never play in MLB again after being arrested for human trafficking and sexual exploitation of a minor in his native Dominican Republic. That's the old news of bad news for Wander Franco. He's still awaiting trial for that. Now, a new and separate case. Franco arrested in the Dominican for illegal use and possession of a firearm after a confrontation at gunpoint in a parking lot. Franco ordered to monthly check-ins with the court while he awaits his date. He is going to need a good calendar and or an assistant to keep track of all of his various court appointments going forward. By the way, he's suspended indefinitely from Major League Baseball and unlikely to ever be reinstated. We mentioned this late in yesterday's show, but it was after the fix. The Anaheim, California, LA Angels of Anaheim have signed veteran catcher Travis d'Arnaud to a 2-year, $12 million deal. He's going to team up.
Mention Orange County.
That's true.
And I think you should list all the municipalities around Orange County.
Irvine,
the Disneyland.
Tustin, if you remember the old IKEA ads. So d'Arnaud will team up with Logan O'Hoppe. That will be the plate duo for the Halos. Probably the two will start together against left-handers, with one being catcher and the other DH. d'Arnaud, a career .248 hitter with a 99 OPS plus over his career, but had a couple good seasons for the Braves. He'll be 36 next season. Bad Bunny's sports agency is continuing its losing streak.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
They took another L.
An arbitrator upheld a 5-year ban for the CEOs of the sports representation firm known as REMAS for making improper inducements to players. There was only one certified agent from the Bad Bunny group. That's William Arroyo. He will be suspended for 3 more years. Lastly, the Pittsburgh Pirates have announced the hiring of Matt Haig as their new hitting coach, swiping him from the Toronto Blue Jays. I was thinking about making some sort of joke about the international court in The Hague, and then realized that would be way too highbrow for sports radio. So instead, I just mentioned the thought process. Here's Braden with NFL news.
A lot of quarterback news in the National Football League. We'll get to all of it right now. Starting with the Indianapolis Colts. Yes, the Colts that benched their first-round draft pick from a couple of years ago and Anthony Richardson. Well, they didn't really like what happened with Joe Flacco being in charge the last couple of weeks. So 2 games after a sudden quarterback change, Colts have done an about-face and will return Anthony Richardson as the starter for Sunday's game against the Jets. Coach Shane Steichen said the coaching staff implored Richardson to take a greater command of his off-the-field preparation and attention to detail, and over the last 2 weeks, he's made strides in those areas, big-time strides, in becoming a pro's pro. That, Steichen said, prompted the decision to go back to Richardson, who had started just 10 games before being benched after Week 7. He missed the past 2 starts which were also losses to the Vikings and the Bills. I'm sure that had nothing to do with the fact that they're switching to Anthony Richardson. Joe Flacco wasn't very good in those games. But he's going to start this week. He'll start the rest of the season, and we will go from there. I'm glad he made his off-field strides. Raiders are going to stick with Gardner Minshew as their starting quarterback, according to Antonio Pierce on Wednesday.
Why not?
They're already so far down blank creek. It doesn't even matter. The announcement comes as Raiders return from their bye week, and despite Minshew's recent benching and his 12 turnovers, which are the most in the National Football League, Raiders will play the Dolphins on Sunday. Quote, listen, we brought in Gardner. We expected, obviously, the play that we had seen in the past, and at some point, you've got to give a guy confidence, Pierce said. And there's been times, obviously, with turnovers and other things that have taken place where we made decisions to either put him on the bench or go to another quarterback. But this week, I felt like Gardner gives us the best opportunity to move forward, and he has every opportunity to go out there and help us get to a win. Minshew signed a 2-year, $25 million free agent contract worth $15 million guaranteed this offseason. Won a training camp battle with Aiden O'Connell, but was benched in favor of O'Connell after a Week 5 loss to the Broncos. And then O'Connell broke his thumb, and they had to go back to Gardner Minshew. They tried Desmond Ridder. That didn't really work out too well, so why not?
Why not?
Why not?
And why not indeed?
Okay.
Because you have no other options.
Yeah, there's no other option.
That's why not.
Because Desmond Ridder is not better than Gardner Minshew, who's turned the ball over 12 times, second most in the NFL.
Because Todd Marinovich is unavailable. And
is Billy Volek still able to throw the rock?
could go through some old
backup
Raiders quarterbacks. Big arm guy I'm forgetting. Never mind.
It doesn't matter. Not the end of our quarterback plays. Jags quarterback Trevor Lawrence will miss his second consecutive game with a left shoulder injury. Coach Doug Peterson said Wednesday morning. Mac Jones will start against the Lions on Sunday, and Peterson is optimistic that Lawrence could return after the team's Week 12 bye. You guys know how I am with injuries. Peterson said we don't want to put a player out there that's not 100%, so we're going to rest him one more week. Jones started last week's game against the Vikings, completed 14 of 22 for 111 yards. He also turned the ball over 3 times, 2 picks, and was sacked 3 times in the Vikings' 12-7 victory at Everbank Stadium. Well, the offense looked really good with him, I guess, scoring 7 points. Vikings are good, though, so we'll give that. But no Trevor Lawrence against the Lions. Who knows what that outcome will be. Jamarcus Russell apparently not available to play for the Raiders either.
I remembered which quarterback I was thinking of. Remember Jay Schrader?
Jay Schrader. That's
he had a big
name.
arm. Had a big arm out of UCLA. Career completion percentage 50.8. Maybe not a modern NFL quarterback.
Every time he dropped back to pass, flip of a coin whether or not it'd be completed.
Just wing it. He could wing it deep though.
He can wing it and sling it, and sometimes it'd be caught, and sometimes it would not.
Jeff George, good pull. Adam Paul. Jeff George had one of the best quarterback arms in history. Just wasn't a very smart or efficient player. But he was.
Jeff Garcia still available?
Man, he could wing it. I'm going to wing it through the NBA and NHL. No local sports teams news today. We'll have some the next couple of days for the Gulls and for the Clippers. Meanwhile, this news did come out this morning. San Antonio Spurs head coach Greg Popovich, in fact, suffered a mild stroke before a Spurs game on November 2nd. There is no definitive timetable for his return. The club shedding light today on what had previously been called just a medical issue for Popovich, saying that the coach is expected to make a full recovery. However, the club does not know if that means this season or maybe next season or sometime down the road. Our best thoughts to Greg Popovich as he gets better. The NBA Cup began last night. If you felt that movement in the force.
And on the court.
It was the NBA Cup. And it began with group play within group play. An emotional return to the Bay Area for Klay Thompson, his first game back in San Francisco since leaving the Warriors for the Dallas Mavericks on a free agent contract. Both staff and the fans feted Thompson throughout the night. He had a great return, hit 6 3-pointers, 22 points, and it was a great game that went right down to the wire. We bring you the highlight with 30 seconds left. Golden State leading Dallas by 115-114. And who else on a night like this but Steph Curry for the final night-night?
The switch to Lively. 3, Curry. The switch to Lively.
Here you go.
Let's watch it twice. It was that good, honestly.
So great.
God, I am...
Especially with Kevin Harlan on the call.
I'm going to tell you something, and I've never been a Golden State fan. I'll never be a Golden, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I'm a Golden State fan. I'm going to be legitimately sad when Steph Curry leaves the NBA.
Hey, he's fun. He's entertaining.
He's one of the best players in the history of the league. He is truly, and from an entertainment standpoint, top 5.
Changed the era to three-point era.
Top 5.
Oh, yeah.
Top 5 all-time entertainment value player. Clutch shooter. Best clutch shooter I've ever seen in my life. Number one. Who else in the history of the sport would you want with the ball in their hands if you needed a 3 at the end of the game? There's no one.
It's true.
Don't tell me Larry Bird. Don't you dare.
Get out of here with that Larry Bird nonsense.
Don't you dare. It's Steph Curry every time. 120-117, Warriors win. Golden State's 9-2 on the season. Pretty dang impressive. 1-0 now in group play in the NBA Cup. Also picking up double wins in the NBA Cup group play lid lifter. Atlanta, Detroit, Orlando, the Knicks, the Bucks, the Suns, and the Blazers. NBA Cup returns on Friday. Tonight, just regular courts, regular NBA action, but 11 games, including Grizzlies Lakers at Crypto.com Arena and the Clippers at the Rockets. Over to the NHL. Jets, Jets.
Not those Jets.
Winnipeg Jets.
Winnipeg.
15-1. The embattled franchise in the smallest market in pro sports, a city that's desperately trying to hang on to their beloved team. This has got to be helping. The Jets went to the Garden and beat the Rangers 6-3. Winnipeg now a league best 15-1 in the NHL. There were other scores in the league which you can look up tonight. 5 games on the ice. The Kings are at Colorado. The Ducks host the Vegas Golden Knights. And in Salt Lake City, the Carolina Hurricanes visit Utah Hockey Club.
Boo.
The club is 6-6-3, but the club has promised to tie their next 3 games so that they can be 6-6-6 because Braden loves him so much.
Be the ultimate villain.
Sign of the devil.
Yes.
What's your record? 6-6-6.
And then they would have to change their name.
Right. To the Utah Devils. And then the Jersey Devils are going, no, that's our name, Jerk.
That's right.
Can't
You want to
take
take the devil out of the name, just
Can't
like the
take
Rays did. And they got better.
That's
Semantics.
That's my NHL report. Here's Braden's college report.
All right, college basketball and football for you. A big congratulations to USD women's basketball coach Cindy Fisher, who won her 400th career game
Well
last
done.
night.
Congratulations.
Over 300 of those have been at the University of San Diego. She spent some time as the head coach at Arizona State before her now in her 20th season at the University of San Diego. 400th win last night as USD's women's basketball team knocked down Weber State by 3 in Utah. So big congratulations to Cindy Fisher. Other college basketball scores for you, as we mentioned earlier on the show. San Diego State beat Occidental 100-49. Portland State outlast San Diego 85-76. And the UCSD Tritons improved to 2-1 on the year and 2-0 at home they beat Sacramento State last night 64-54.
Coach Olin's got him rolling.
All 3 of our men's teams were in action at the exact same time last night, all tipping off at 7 o'clock right here in San Diego. Who's in charge of scheduling? Who's in charge of planning?
Let's
these
go, guys.
things.
Get it together.
Into college football. Last night we had the updated college football playoff rankings. This is the worst week to do it because you always have to wait for the first game of this whatever tournament that they do in college basketball where Duke and Michigan State and Kentucky and I forget, Kansas all play each other. They do it every year, and then you got to wait for the first game to be finished, and then at halftime they release the rankings live for the playoff show. In the release of the rankings, Oregon remained number 1 in the country and the number 1 seed if the season ended today. Other rankings for you, Ohio State was 2, Texas was 3, and Penn State was 4. Now, the problem with that is you must be a conference champion in order to be a top 4 seed. So Ohio State is actually the 5th seed. Texas is actually they actually get to be the 2nd seed because they now jump up Ohio State's spot as the SEC, quote, champion. Penn State, it would be the 4, is actually the 6 because, well, Ohio State and Oregon are in front of them in the rankings, which means Indiana at 5 would also be number 7 because BYU, as the Big 12 winner, would be the 3. And then Miami, the ACC winner, would be the 4. And then the last automatic qualifier is Boise State. If you're confused, you should be because it's a lot of move. What's the point of the rankings? Like, why rank Ohio State number 2? What does it matter?
Right.
If they can't be a top 4 seed because they lost to Oregon and Oregon's going to be the Big Ten champ.
I guess it's to know in case things
just
change.
In case. Well, if Ohio State wins the conference, they would be one of those teams. I think people can assume that. But again, there's your ranking system.
If we were on Columbus's number 1 sports station, that's what we'd be saying, right?
I tell you, this is BS that we had the conference champions. I've already had to talk to somebody off the ledge who's a Penn State fan. This is BS that we don't get to see it. Whatever. You're making the playoff. Who cares? So the number 1 seed right now would be Oregon. The number 2 would be Texas. BYU would be the 3 seed. Miami would be the 4. 5, Ohio State would play 12, Boise State. Winner would play Miami. Notre Dame would play at Tennessee. Winner would play Oregon. Ole Miss would play at Penn State. Winner would play BYU. Alabama at Indiana. And the winner would play Texas. First team out would be Georgia. Second team out would be SMU. We could get a little bit deeper into this later on in the show. There's a lot of controversy, and the thing that really holds true is your school name and the logo of the conference you're in is definitely giving you a lot more than resumes. You could play the blind resume game, but schools like SMU have a better resume than Texas, and yet they're 11 spots difference between them and Texas, as Texas is at the top spot in the ranking system. So that's it for college football. That's it for the sports fix.
That's it. The fix is done. The fix is in. And we will take a break. When we come back, a grab bag of some of the discussion topics we haven't gotten to yet on the program, including maybe a little bit more on the NBA Cup, and something that happened over the weekend that I truly want to celebrate. And maybe it's just a sign of how old I am. I don't feel old.
Pepperidge Farms remembers.
Well, Pepperidge Farms is going to remember something right after this break because there's a guy out there getting it done. Getting her done for his entire career, and it's certainly worth celebrating. We're going to talk about it right after this. Danny and Elsten, San Diego's number 1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 12:25 on the Fan. All
Show's
right.
flown by.
I know, it really has. All right, football fans, listen up. Need that extra edge for game day? Then you need to cash the ticket. Mike Valenti and Jim Costa bring you new episodes every Thursday and Friday. The podcast for football junkies, breaking down the biggest matchups and finding the best value on the board every single week. Cash the Ticket, the podcast that helps you bet smarter on both pro and college games. Follow Cash the Ticket on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right.
How many places can you get podcasts?
A lot.
Because every time somebody asks for like the one I do on Mondays, America's Finest Football Show, they're like, "How can I listen to it?" I'm like, I send them a Spotify link because that's just what I have, and they're like, "Well, I'm on so and so." I'm like, "I'm sorry, you're on what?" I was like, "I'm sure it's there. I don't know. I don't know what that platform is."
Like we use for Padres Hot Tub, we use a platform called Spreaker to populate.
Yes.
And then you see the list of all the different places it's sending. And you're like, well, I don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is. Who's listening to? And then you look at the data, and you're like, oh, somebody's on
Overcast or
made-up podcast platform here.
Right.
And they're watching or listening.
Including the Odyssey app. That's
We're
the
on
one
there.
that our corporation would like you to use.
That's right.
So
You should
consider
download
that.
it now. Because
It's
then
free.
it's a lot easier to find our content on there.
It's quite easy.
Yes.
I do it all the time. All the time, boss. I do it all the time. Okay, I saw this story this morning in the UT, and it kind of hit home. I don't know. I'm no big athlete, but the older you get,
Pepperidge Farm, remember?
the older you get, the more you realize that sometimes you're just hanging on to stuff. Like, are you really still an athlete? Should you really still be doing that? Should you even be bothering anymore? I'm sure someone has asked Bernard Langer that at some point in his life. If you missed this story, I think it's pretty dang impressive. Bernard Langer is 67 years old. He's been playing professional golf forever. And in fact, at one point in his career, an incredible point in his career, he went 18 straight years from 1980 to 1998, where he won at least one PGA Tour event every year. I mean, think about that. That's pretty incredible, right?
That is impressive.
18 straight years, and you're good enough. You're not necessarily the best player in the world all year, but you're good enough to be the best player, to beat the best players in the world at least 1 week every year. Damn, you're good. Well, Bernard Langer was really, really good as a PGA professional. And then he went to the PGA Champions Tour. The old guys tour.
Old guy tour.
He went to the Champions Tour all the way back in 2007 and kicked ass. In fact, for 17 straight years, Bernard Langer had at least won one event on the PGA Champions Tour. Now, remember, you get there when you're 50. You start playing the Champions Tour when you're 50.
And that was 07.
Yeah. So your best years on the Champions Tour are supposed to be your first 5 years. Because those are the first year, those are the years your arthritis hasn't fully kicked in.
Everybody else is older than that, right? You're like the 20-year-old on the tour.
You haven't had your second hip replacement yet,
Right.
You haven't reconstructed your shoulder and all the things that happen when people turn 55 and 60 and 65. But there on Sunday at the Phoenix Country Club was Bernard Langer staring down a 30-foot birdie putt on the 72nd green, lining it up, rolling it toward the hole. It zags right at the exact right instant and drops. And by one shot, Bernard Langer won the Charles Schwab Cup Championship at age 67. He has won 18 straight years on the Champions Tour. He's 67, and he's still out there beating dudes. And at least once a year, he's on the top of the list, bringing home a cup bringing home a trophy, bringing home the check. Bernard Longer, 67, still kicking ass, still winning.
That's so much fun.
I mean, that's sick to me.
I mean, he's basically like, the thing is like when you're professional, what do you do when you're retired? Old guys, when they're retired, what do they do anyway?
Go golf.
They play golf. Why not continue to play? I mean, you have to play at a high level, but you're so good anyway. Might as well keep playing on great courses where, you don't have to pay that much and you get paid to play. Sounds like a great time. Out there kicking ass.
Out there kicking ass. I mean, 67 years old and winning. That's the whole thing. Because, I mean, to me, it's like, hey, 67 years old and you're playing.
Right.
That's really
impressive. That's an accomplishment in itself.
Really impressive. You're going out there and doing 20 events when you're 67. The travel, the 4 straight rounds of play.
Yeah, they still play 4 rounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a grueling task.
He's winning.
That's awesome.
It's just sick. It's just sick. So, yeah, I mean, as a 52-year-old who's with a 21 handicap, who, I'm lucky to be the 4th golfer on a winning scramble. That's where I make my meat. By being that guy that delivers 2 putts.
That's where I'm cutting my teeth.
Yeah, absolutely. This guy is out there at age 67 winning. Just incredibly impressed by that. You went through the college football playoff rankings. We've kind of got that covered on the fix, I guess.
Well, there's a lot of controversy that's going to lead to. They're going to expand this thing. I almost already know for certain by 2026. So they have a deal until through next year, and they're going to expand again because everybody's upset. The narrative went from 12 is too many teams to wait a minute, you got to put Georgia in, and then you start to realize, you start looking at all of the rankings and the resumes, and the resumes all benefit the schools with the correct brand logo and the correct brand name conference. It seems like. I mean, it's still mostly SEC and Big Ten schools, yet the SEC and Big Ten are still upset that they don't have more teams in the 12-team bracket. People are upset about the conference champions being able to get a first-round bye. You know what? If you decided to play stupid games and put 18 of the best teams in one conference, you win stupid prizes, and that is your stupid prize. I don't get the complaining out of a lot of these things. I don't know why they don't just do what the FCS does. You know what the FCS does?
No, what's that?
They have a 24-team playoff.
Okay.
And every conference champion is in, and then they have at-larges.
Okay.
Why don't you just do that?
Very similar to the NCAA tournament. Right? I mean, in terms of if you win your conference, you're in.
Yeah. You know what that might do? That might have some of these schools going like, why don't we just go to the other? Why don't we go back to the conference we're in?
I mean, honestly, it's part of the allure that remains for me of college basketball. It's part of the reason why I tried to front load that UCSD discussion when we were talking college hoops, because there's the level of college hoops where you're buying your guard for $2 million or you're buying your center for $3-4 million, and that game's going to be played around the country and kind of like being in a division with the Dodgers or being in a division with the Yankees. You always know that mountain is waiting to be climbed if you're going to get to the very pinnacle of the sport and get to a national championship. But a team like UCSD can win their conference and play like-sized schools where you aren't guaranteed to lose your star forward. Now, I mean, the Tritons literally did last year lose their star forward to the bench of USC, but you don't have to be out there begging every day like Sean Lewis is begging every day. Please, $1, $5, and you still could win your conference and get a real prize, a trip to the NCAA tournament.
Plus, it gives you national exposure. It's the Flutie effect. When Doug Flutie had that play for, was that Boston College back in the day, and then all of a sudden applicants went through the roof. I mean, TCU got that when they went to the Rose Bowl. Drastically changed their outcome of their school with enrollees and money and funding and everything like that, that all these big schools and traditional schools, the ones that were on TV in the 70s, have a stranglehold over, and they don't want to spread the love on that. That's why they continue to keep everything, this private sector of handpicking who is in and handpicking this and that and the right logos. But if you had it set like the FCS, the FCS, they don't care. There's not enough money on the line for the big schools. But have all the conference champions make it Do a 24-team bracket. If you even want to, you even can give, because there's 10 conferences in college football. You can even give, that gives you 14 at-large bids. You can even give the SEC and Big Ten 3 automatic qualifiers each. And then the ACC and the Big Ten could get 2 each, or the ACC and the Big 12 could get 2 each, and then you could fill out the rest with the at-large. I think there'll be like 2 teams left or whatever. But I don't know. It's such an easy thing that all the other divisions do besides Division I college football. I think right now with the money being involved and how much money these schools are going to make off this tournament, it's only a matter of time. And then the other thing is like, well, they're student athletes, like they can't play as many games. First of all, the FCS already plays that many. Second, if you win a state championship in any major state for high school, you play 16 games. So I don't want to hear the complaining. By the way, they all get paid now. So like you want the money here? You're getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. Go play the football game. So I think it's eventually going to get expanded. I hopefully 24 seems like a lot, but if the FCS can do it, let's just have it happen. I mean, I think more people will be interested in the Aztecs if they win their conference. They're automatically in. I think people will be like, hey, look, we got a shot.
As opposed to, well, if all the dominoes tumble and then we're the 12th this and that.
I mean, look at Boise State. They're like barely hanging on as a 12, and their task is to go play Ohio State, who's the number 2 team in the country right now. Yeah. Right? I mean, that's what they're set up against. It's possible, but it's not a guarantee. Like the MAC champion right now, there's no guarantee they're going to make the playoff because Boise State's playing so well. So might as well do it. I think it'll level the playing field even more. Plus, there's so much parity in college football right now. I think this bracket's going to be legit anyway. I think it's going to spread the love even more, and maybe you'll have some of these schools going like, you know what? I'm at UCLA. Maybe I don't like flying over the East Coast when I can go win the Pac-12 and be in the tournament. Like, maybe we could start making this more normal and not insane.
Yeah, maybe 2036, the Pac-12 will be really legit.
They'll be back to being the Pac-12. And then they'll come in and be like, San Diego State, get it. Thanks for the placeholder. Kick him out of the way.
Yeah, and like your kid will be approaching teenage years, and you can tell them all about the Pac-12.
Yeah, they'll talk about Ohio State being the SEC. They're like, Dad, Ohio State was in the Big Ten? These crazy things.
Son.
You said TCU was in the Conference USA back in the day?
Soprenet Farms remembers.
That's right, exactly.
The old days.
San Diego State's going to be in the MAC for no reason. I mean, it's just a bunch of dumb things.
All right, let's take time out, and when we come back, it's time to play today's silly game. We had to flip-flop the schedule because Annie is out today. So, Fast Money.
When's the last time you played Fast Money?
Friday.
Oh, was it?
Friday.
Finally, somebody picked you?
Somebody picked me on Friday. And then I literally won on the very last question. It was back and forth. And the question was, name a state that's an A.
We need a bounce back out of you after yesterday. And the contestant.
Honestly, yesterday was a disaster.
Gap kicked our ass.
Yesterday was a disaster. I mean, I've been hearing the boys on the morning just dying on Take on Woods.
Oh, really?
Oh, Ben's made the game so hard. Like, it's crazy. It's like Woods is winning with 2. It's been an absolute disaster. He's stumping the host. He's stumping the callers. Fast Money, that's not happening, gang. 833-288-0973 is the number to use. 833-288-0973. Dial in. Braden's going to pick a contestant. We will play Fast Money when we come back. And if you can win today, you'll be qualified for a chance to win our grand prize, a 2-night stay at Westgate, Las Vegas, 2 tickets to Soul of Motown, and a $150 food and beverage credit. It's a whale of a prize. It'll be determined by a drawing at the end of the month. You can get into the drawing by winning Fast Money next. Annie and Elsten on the Fan. 12:44. It is Silly Games time on Annie and Elsten. This is the spot in the show. Take a little break from the sports talk. Have some fun. Try to qualify someone for a really cool prize. Today, we've got a really cool prize. It's a 2-night stay at Westgate, Las Vegas, 2 tickets to Sola Motown, and a $150 food and beverage credit. Here's the read. The Westgate Las Vegas Resort and Casino features newly designed premier rooms, part of their $70 million room renovations, home of legendary Vegas fun. The award-winning Soul of Motown is a high-energy concert-style musical tribute celebrating Motown legends. A must-see show during your Vegas vacation getaway. Tickets at westgateresorts.com. Today we play Fast Money. Here we go. It is the bonus round from the very popular Family Feud game show. It's time to play Fast Money. We asked for contestants to call in. Kyle in San Diego is today's contestant. Hi, Kyle. Welcome to the show.
Hey. How you guys doing?
Doing well, man.
Kyle.
Appreciate you being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we play.
San Diego, born and raised, big Padres fan. Currently going to flight school and just enjoying the sunshine.
Outstanding. All right. Here's how it works, Kyle. Very straightforward, very simple. Normally, I'd say it begins with a choice by you, but today you have no choice. Annie's not here, so you will be playing me. So the way it works is I'm going to leave the room, at which point our resident Ray Combs, Braden Soprenant, will be standing by. He has polled a previous studio audience for Annie and Elsten, asking for the most popular answer for 5 different kind of random questions. He's going to ask you those questions. You're going to be looking for the most popular answer. You'll have 60 seconds to complete the survey. When you're done, I'll come back in. I don't get to give the same answers as you. So if you nail the number one answers, you've got that advantage. But I will do the same survey. We'll compare the scores. And if you win, you're in the drawing to go to Vegas. Make sense?
Makes sense.
All right, man. Good luck to you. I'm going to head out, and it's all on Braden now.
Make sure you don't doze off over there. There's no way of me getting a hold of you. All right, so Craig's going to be tuned in there. All right, let's get to the action here, Kyle. I will give you 1 minute on the clock, and you'll have to try to give me the most popular answer for these 5 questions. And after that, whoever's got the most points at the end will win today's contest. So if there's anyone that stumps you, you could say pass, and we can get to it if we have time remaining. Clock will start after I ask you this question. Name a reason someone quits school.
We'll pass on that.
All right. Name a reason that a person gets called into their boss's office.
For stealing.
Stealing. Name a reason that a teenager might act especially nice to his or her parents.
Trying to go to a friend's house.
Friend's house. Name a reason you might ignore the telephone and let the machine take it.
In the bathroom.
All right. Name a reason you might wake up in the morning and then go right back to bed.
Because you're tired.
Tired. Back to question number 1. Name a reason someone quits school.
Because they don't want to go.
Don't want to go. All right. Well, now bring in Craig. I had some good questions there.
Good
Or
questions.
some good answers, I should say.
Answers.
All
right.
Trying to tally it up real quick before we get going.
Okay. Well, I'll write down mine so you don't have to worry.
All right, sounds good.
Okay.
All right, well, that's a problem. We'll get to that later.
Okay.
All right, question number 1. Name a reason someone quits school, as I have to bring you back on the YouTube stream.
Name a reason somebody quits school. They're going into the military.
Military. All right. Name a reason that a person gets called into the boss's office.
To get fired?
Fired. Name a reason that a teenager might act especially nice to his or her parents.
Because they
Father
need a
of a
favor.
teenager.
They need a favor.
Name a reason you might ignore the telephone and let the machine take it.
Just laughing about the whole thought of a machine.
Your
You mean-
phone's a machine.
Yeah, because I don't recognize the number.
Name a reason you might wake up in the morning and then go right back to bed.
Ooh. Oh, that's a good question. Wake up in the morning and go right back to bed. Because, shoot. You had to make a phone call. You had to make a call and then...
Phone?
Yeah, it's a terrible answer. But
That is not your best.
no, it's not. It's not, admittedly. But, maybe I like Kyle.
All right. Hey, it's possible.
Never met Kyle, but nonetheless.
All right, that's how I'm gonna do that question. It's interesting to say the least. We'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
All right, we'll bring Kyle back on.
All right, what do we got?
Name a reason someone quit school.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle said, "Don't want to go.
Don't wanna.
Don't wanna." 11 points. Don't like
Okay.
it.
Don't like it.
Oh, no.
That was the worst answer of the group. Still an answer though. Craig said military.
Yeah, off to join the army.
0.
Sorry, I gotta leave. I gotta join the army. You're up 11-0.
11-0. See, don't want to go could have been like 2 different answers, but we're going with the 11-point answer.
Fair enough.
We have pressure, failing, new job, don't like it, lazy. Name a reason that a person gets called into the boss's office. Kyle said stealing.
Oh dear. Well, that would usually lead to what I said, which is fired.
Which is fired, which is 16 points.
Okay. 16-11, Craig, after 2.
Name a reason that a teenager might act especially nice to his or her parents. Kyle said, let's go to a friend's house.
Yeah.
We're going to give him 15 points for wants to go out. Asked to go out.
Okay.
Asked to go out.
Yeah. All right.
Yours said favor. We're going to give you 8 points for wants to go out. That'd be
Okay.
favor.
I'm sure every
I
single
don't
thing on
know
the list
why-
are all favors.
Asked to go out is different than wants to go out.
I don't think they are. I think they're the
They're
same thing.
2 separate answers on here.
I'm so confused.
Number 1 answer was want money.
Okay. Well,
2
that's
was
also a
borrow
favor.
car, also a favor. Rex car was on there. His or her birthday is coming up or wants to go out, which
I
is
should
the
have
same
said
thing.
car. That's what I should have said. Okay, so it's 26-24. It's a very low-scoring game, but currently our contestant is in the lead, Kyle.
I will say this, you guys wouldn't win the bonus.
No, I don't think so.
Name a reason you might ignore the telephone and let the machine take it. Kyle said, because you're in the bathroom.
Okay.
Correct. 21 points.
Very good.
Recognize the number.
Yeah, this is the true correct answer.
I'm going to give you 12 points for avoiding telemarketer.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Which is what you're doing every time.
The number 1 answer was you're busy.
Okay, so Kyle's up 11, going to the last one where I know I'm zeroing. So
You did get 0 for
you're
that.
in great shape. So
You
you're
did
in
get a
great
0.
shape.
Name a reason you might wake up in the morning and then go right back to bed. Kyle said you're tired. We're going to give him 41 points for not feeling well.
Okay.
Phone call gets nothing. You get nothing.
Yeah, so you win, Kyle. You win.
There you go.
Very easily, you win. 62, 77, 88,
That,
88 to
that's definitely-
36.
There's definitely some redemption because I called Christopher Stefan yesterday and did not show up. So
I heard you flame out on that because I listened to that segment. So I didn't realize that I heard you, but I did.
Rough game show day yesterday.
So glad you did better. And you're now in the hopper, brother. So congratulations. And hopefully you'll be getting the call from our promotions at the end of the month, and you'll be heading to Vegas. And appreciate you for taking the time out to play the game.
what number should I expect? Because I don't want to avoid it because I don't recognize the number.
Well, that's a great question. I don't know the answer.
Rough.
You might need to just accept random phone calls at
For
the end of the
rest
month.
of the month.
At the end of the month, you might need to just consider when that call comes in. It'll probably have one of those little, capital letter block things. It'll probably say Odyssey or something on it. I'm just guessing, but that would be my advice to you, Kyle, is be a little bit more permissive when the random call comes in at the end of the month.
Yeah, we'll never know.
All right, brother. Keep you right there. Oh, no, I dropped you.
Uh-oh.
Kyle, call back.
You definitely got to call back.
Ay, ay, ay.
I don't have his info.
Sorry, Kyle. Call right back. Hopefully you're still listening. Call right back. I pressed the wrong button. I was trying to put you on hold, and I put you on gone.
Guy smited you for beating him. You're like, joke's on you, sucker.
Oh, hey, it's great you won.
See ya.
No, please call back, Kyle. Please call back. We've got that part of you, so we'll know when you call back. Okay, we're going to take a time out right now. When we come back, very excited for this, making his debut, Tyler Heaps, the sporting director for San Diego FC. Basically the GM of the team, the guy who's going to hire and sign all the players that you're going to come to know and love. We'll find out about his process, his journey to San Diego, and his plans for our MLS club. That's all after this quick timeout. It's coming up live. Stay right here. Andy and Elsten on 97.3 The Fan. Back with you for the fourth hour of the program. Annie and Elsten here with you on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Annie out today. Craig Elsten, Braden Soprenet with you in studio. Since we came on the air back in January, one of the things that we have vowed, honestly, throughout 2024 is to keep our finger on the pulse of what's happening in San Diego professional soccer, understanding that MLS is coming to San Diego. First match in late February, first home match now, March 1st against St. Louis at Snapdragon Stadium. We have given you regular episodes of MLS 101, trying to get people caught up on just the kind of nuts and bolts, brick and mortar of what makes Major League Soccer the league that it is. Now that the franchise is coming into ever sharper focus, we were lucky to have on Mike Ivanis, the head coach of San Diego FC, a couple weeks ago, and now very excited to welcome to the 97.3 The Fan hotline for the first time the sporting director for San Diego FC, the man in charge, Tyler Heaps, is joining us on the Annie and Elsten program. Tyler, Craig Elsten here in studio. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time today.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate that. I've got to go back and find these MLS 101, see if I can get any tips from you guys.
No, I think you've got it all handled. It's for all the beginners, including us. Nonetheless, it's really exciting to have you here, Tyler. Let's start with kind of a broad-based but simple question. It's November 13th. You're in your office. What's the to-do list look like right now? What is that feeling as you're accelerating, obviously, towards so many things happening, but it's not quite happening yet?
Yeah, it's a long to-do list. I'll start with that. The staffing is a main priority for us right now. We're getting closer and closer. You guys obviously had the chance to speak with Mikey. We're building out what his staff looks like. We're finalizing the medical department and a few other roles. So that's a key one for us in the next 1 to 2 weeks. And then the players, we're getting ready for a busy December. We'll have expansion draft obviously coming. We'll have NCAA draft. So making sure we have a pretty good idea about what we want to do with the domestic pool. And then at the same time, we're constantly monitoring what the international scene looks like and which players could potentially come and be kind of our other international spots. And that includes another DP and another U22 or two. So just trying to stay on top of as much of that as possible because once one domino falls, as we expect to happen here in December, I think a lot more will start to follow suit.
What was the process like of getting Chucky Lozano across the line to be kind of your first marquee signing?
Yeah, I think that's a conversation that happened many weeks and months ago when it started. He's obviously he's proven that he's successful at any level. So he's always a name I think that's been paired with many MLS clubs as a potential to come back. He's a player that's at kind of the prime age of his career as well. So some people probably expected it to take a little bit longer. It was a conversation that started obviously with his agent and then himself, and then his family got involved. And I think our ownership group did a fantastic job as well, kind of selling this project that essentially didn't exist. And we have a massive benefit, right? We're here in sunny San Diego, and I think that also was a big attraction to him and to be a part of this Right to Dream project as well, kind of correlated to what he envisions and what his values hold. So really excited. I was actually just texting with him this morning. He's pumped. I think he can't wait to get here. He's obviously got a few weeks left over there in Netherlands, and then he'll be joining us in the beginning of January.
What's your process in terms of when you're building roster one, team one, balancing star chasing, finding people that are going to be very appealing from a marketing standpoint, finding the young core that you're going to build through, and then maybe finding, most importantly, the type of veteran players that are going to bring experience, that are going to help your team get off on the front foot as an expansion process? How do you balance putting those various different buckets of players into focus?
Yeah, I think that's the word that you use there, balance, is really key for us, and one I probably say a couple of times a day. It's really important for us to make sure we get off on a good note, and that's where I think players like Irving and some of the other guys that we've already signed, and Yeppe and Marcus and Patty, we have full expectation that those guys come in and hit the ground running because they are seasoned vets. They've played 20, 30 games in a season, and they've contributed to very successful teams. That's also important for us to get some MLS experience. I think that's really important and something that we'll value heading into the expansion draft and the free agency market and the trade window, is that we need to make sure that we go and get players because it is the most unique, diverse league in the world from a travel standpoint and from where you have to go and from a scheduling. And then it's about trying to fill in those gaps. Obviously, we're building our academy from scratch, so we're going to have to go out and get some young players to prove that we'll play those because that's a club that we want to be. We want to give opportunities to young players and allow those players to flourish here in San Diego. So it is about that balancing act, and it's making sure that we've got not only players that can come in and contribute from day one, but also we want to develop those players, and we want to make sure that as we get into the season, that you start seeing more and more players start to make an impact. Because my job as a sporting director is to provide Mikey a squad as big as possible. It's not to provide him 11 players and the other guys are just there as extras. It's how do we get as many successful players in the building as possible.
I mean, it's got to be such I don't even want to say two-track, multi-track effort on your point. And we're talking to Tyler Heaps, the sporting director for San Diego FC, because you bring up Right to Dream, and now you're talking about an academy. Now you're talking about finding young boys, right? 10, 11, 12 years old, in a completely different generation, as opposed to finding players that are young but ready to contribute at an MLS level. And I imagine how do you keep your brain balanced in terms of trying to find so many different styles, different ages, different classes?
There's so much going on at the moment, and I think I'll probably look back at this and it'll all come to fruition. But yeah, right now it's some long days. We're lucky and fortunate that we've built out a fantastic staff that will only continue to get bigger. But I think we have a lot of really good pieces and a lot of good experience that has come not only from the domestic space, but also internationally that have worked at some of the top levels. So it's about trying to get everybody's ideas together and make sure that we know what our priorities are, and then it's trying to attack those priorities. And obviously first with that comes building the first team that will start in 2 months from now. And then it's about trying to make sure that obviously we start to build that academy and have that pathway that exists so that we can make those kids in San Diego see themselves on the field and hopefully realize their dreams and playing in front of everybody here at Snapdragon.
Tyler, I've been really looking forward to this conversation since it was booked and getting the chance to do a little research on you. As a younger man growing up in broadcasting, I was 100% influenced by the growth of analytics in baseball, and I've been around baseball a long time. And, of course, Michael Lewis's book, Moneyball, was amazing in the early 2000s when there were so many franchises that just had completely different priorities from what Oakland was able to isolate and recognize as being important inefficiencies within the game that they could exploit to become one of the best franchises playing at a much tighter budget than so many others. Reading some research on you, Moneyball was an influence on you getting involved in the analytical side of sports as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, massive. I was a sophomore when that book came out, when I read it for the first time. And so I think I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was majoring in chemistry at the time, but I really enjoyed the mathematics side of it. So I was in Calc 3 or whatever it was at the time in numerical equations. And after I watched that, I was like, actually, I think I want to work in sport in some capacity. And that was always the hope and dream. And one thing led to another. And I was fortunate enough to be very connected in the sports space. And then obviously soccer kind of started to take a turn in data and objective information when I was getting involved. And I've been fortunate in the last 10 years to be in some really good and key positions for different clubs and organizations.
So, okay, this brings me to this, because in baseball, you have a series of individualized confrontations, right? There's so many different things that you can put data points on. They add the TrackMan technology. Now you can know the spin rates. But there's a lot of things that are, I don't want to say obvious, but like places that are, okay, I want to dive into this. I want to dive into that. Soccer, a flow sport, a sport where so much is predicated on intuition and people having the recognition of where they are within space, within one another. Where are you finding the inefficiencies in this sport?
It's a fascinating question, and it probably, to your point, it's why it makes this sport so intriguing, is because there is no blueprint, right? I think baseball is now starting to become a blueprint. Almost every team has a built-out analytic staffing, and the sport is binary. Every pitch is a ball or a strike, and it's either in play or out of play, and then you can start to break the game down in that capacity. I think soccer, why we all love this sport and why I love it, is that there are so many different ways to do things. You can even look at a game on the weekend, and you can watch Man City play, and you can watch Red Bull Leipzig play, and they both have unbelievable amounts of success, but they do it in a completely different manner. And so the way that I always interpret data in this space is it's there to be proactive, and it's there to obviously ensure that you are objectively doing what you're saying you're doing. So it's about, obviously, you can use it in recruitment. You can try to find undertapped, utilized resources, and you can try to find players that are potentially young and making their debuts. And then you can use it from an analysis standpoint to try to identify where our team's strengths and weaknesses, where do they try to build up, where do they try to create their chances, where are they entering the box from, who are their players that are most involved. So it's just another data point. And I think video is also a data point, and so is everything else in terms of what their contract is in the salary cap league. And so from my standpoint, it's how do we make our lives more efficient, and how do we make sure that the decisions that we're making are foolproof, and that we're trying to check and challenge as many things as possible. And I think that's where data comes into it.
All right. Without giving away any of the store secrets, do you feel that professional soccer, let me put it this way, where do you feel professional soccer, we can just stay MLS, but you can widen if you like, is in relationship to analytics compared to where baseball was at the turn of the century when Moneyball was written? Is there a lot of inefficiency out there? Are there a lot of clubs that aren't going the direction that you think maybe they should be going? Or is everybody kind of in the same place fighting for the same things?
I think it is. There are a lot of inefficiencies in your day-to-day working environment, in the recruitment aspect and the performance aspect in terms of sports science, as well as obviously from an analysis when you're preparing for an upcoming opposition. There are teams that have definitely invested and went all in, and I think that's no secret. You can Google it, and you can see the Liverpools and the Michelins and teams like this that have really invested, and a lot of the times it's because of their ownership group. It's an ownership group that most likely comes from betting and understands that, again, how do you try to minimize risk, and how do you try to give yourselves the best possible chance to have success. And I think but I also think that the technology space is continuing to grow, because soccer is also an extremely transitional game, and it's one that there is not a direct way to be able to collect information. And so there are technology providers out there that are still trying to collect things in a more efficient way in terms of body shape, of what way you're facing, in terms of spin rate, as you mentioned, about the ball and things like that. So there are still a lot of things to come, but I also think that it's in a position where there are some clubs that are taking a lot of a very good advantage of it, and there are still some clubs that are trying to figure out what the investment is and is it worth it.
Tyler Heap, Sporting Director, San Diego FC. Just a couple more things before we let you go, Tyler, and switching, giving you all these kind of weight. And by the way, I could ask you about analytics and probably will multiple times, multiple questions going forward. But on a more personal level, like, what has San Diego meant to you since you've come here? What have you learned about the city?
It's been amazing, to be honest. I've kind of fully been now integrated. I was in and out for the last year, but now I've actually moved and I'm here full time. And so, one, it's an amazing place. I love how relaxed, but also the personality of the city is. There's so many different things you can do. You can be at the beach 1 minute, and then 20 minutes later, you can be hiking a mountain. Like, I really enjoy the outdoors. And so I think I found a decent place to be able to do that. I haven't spent a lot of time on the coast, to be honest. I grew up in the Midwest, and then I've been fortunate to spend a couple of years in Monaco in the south of France, which obviously was unique in its own aspect. But I've really enjoyed it. The people have been fantastic. The food is unbelievable. So when I do get a time to leave the office, that's normally what I'm doing. I'm trying to find a good bite to eat and a decent beer in the city.
Delightful, yeah. And that was kind of going to be the last thing along those lines, but just how do you unplug? What do you need to do to allow your mind to recharge for the next day?
Yeah, I'm extremely fortunate in that I love the sport of soccer. So to be honest, even on the weekends, I'm watching a game most likely. And sometimes that's scouting, and sometimes that's just for my enjoyment, because I do, and I'm really intrigued by the sport and how teams play and how many different ways you can do things. But I love getting out. I love going to Balboa Park, whether it's for a run. I love going to the beach, and obviously just trying to find a good local restaurant or brewery. So I'm a pretty low-key, relaxed guy. So that's where I think this city fits me quite well, because you can go out and spend 45 minutes walking, and there's a number of different things you can see and get involved in.
Appreciate your time, Tyler Heaps, Sporting Director, San Diego FC. Hopefully the first of many conversations going down the road. But good luck ticking all the boxes on that very busy to-do list, and we look forward to chatting with you with a slightly more complete club a little bit down the road.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for having me, guys.
You bet. Tyler Heaps, Sporting Director, the man in charge for San Diego FC. That's the guy at the top of the soccer pyramid for the club. So if you're a baseball fan, think of your general manager, president of baseball operations, your A.J. Preller. That's what Tyler Heaps is for San Diego FC. Your thoughts on what you heard there, Mr. Soprano?
Good, very insightful, little interesting perspective, obviously, of trying to apply analytics to soccer and everything like that. And excited to see another professional team rolling through here in San Diego. It's gonna be here before you know it.
Yeah, I mean, like the sports geek in me, like it's like getting shivers, like getting chills, thinking about all the different ways that they're trying to find new ways to analyze a sport that's a touch and feel sport. You know, that so much is just split seconds, instinctive movements, the bounce of the ball. Is there sand on the pitch or is it clean? Like Snapdragon, is there sand on the pitch or is it clean?
We'll find out soon, I guess, with
like,
the new grass.
So many things that involve randomness. Where do you find the insight within that? Where do you find the thing, the 2% that you can do better than another club that allows you to step in as a team, as an expansion team, as a team in your inaugural season, and maybe make steps, make strides in Major League Soccer? Really, really cool stuff. Tyler Heaps, hope you enjoyed that. Very interesting conversation as far as where I'm sitting in terms of the future of San Diego sports, because here's one of the guys that's got the reins for one of our two Major League teams. Okay, when we come back, we'll hit reset on a couple of the topics from earlier in the program, including a big night in local college hoops and 3 San Diegans receiving silver bats. We'll talk about it as we come back. Annie and Elsten with Craig and Braden here with you until 2 o'clock. Gwen and Chris check in then on The Fan. Don't forget, tonight, in this seat right here, Sam Levitt, Inside San Diego Baseball with Sam Levitt. It's Wednesdays, 7 to 9 p.m. on 97.3 The Fan and on our YouTube page, where Sam will talk nothing but NBA basketball. No, he'll talk Padres.
Is he a Knicks fan?
Probably.
Or does he like the Nets?
Well, he likes the Mets. And so you kind of feel like there's a Yankees-Knicks,
Yes.
Mets-Nets
Yankees,
type
Knicks,
thing.
Yankees, Knicks, Rangers.
Yeah, right. Like all the way down. Yankees, Knicks, Rangers,
Mets,
Giants.
Nets,
Then you get Mets,
Islanders.
Nets, Jets. Mets, Nets, Jets,
Islanders.
Islanders.
I'm sure there's a mix in between.
I think it should only be that way.
I think so, too. That's what you sign up for. Being a fan of one of those sides is kind of rough.
It is a great, yeah, no kidding. One side has had a little bit more success than others. We can find that out and more from Sam Levitt, who we promise will not talk any NBA basketball. He will talk Padres only. A couple people in various social media platforms asking, why didn't I ask Tyler Heaps about Kevin De Bruyne potentially coming to San Diego? It's just like if you had asked A.J. Preller about Juan Soto coming to San Diego or any free agent. He can't say anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what's he going to say? Well, yes, we, in fact, talked to KDB a week ago, and we're right on the line. He's about to sign on the dotted line. Like, no, they'll talk about him if and when they get him. It'd be a hell of a thing if they did.
Maybe even better be like, nah, we're not interested.
Yeah.
Just for every player that you bring up.
We're looking
Not
elsewhere.
interested. Yeah.
Looking elsewhere. Got a 12-year-old Guatemalan we're looking to recruit.
We got our feelers out there. Thanks, but no thanks.
Anyways, interesting stuff. Tyler Heaps. I really do. I get a tickle thinking about, because it's groundbreaking. Like creating analytics in the soccer world. It's like literally figuring out what the equation is that we need to run. You know what I mean? It's not plugging the data into the equation to find out the answer. It's figuring out the questions you need to ask. And that's exciting.
Yeah, they don't have, it's not like they have a bunch of stats like baseball, like throughout that dictate a lot of different things that have already been established, right? I mean, you're trying to find different avenues that you can analyze for soccer.
Speed, foot speed, passing efficiency. You can rate these things. There's analytics like XG, which is expected goals, and there's these fun little graphics and such, and you can get into it. But he's trying to find the billion-dollar edge, you know, and it really is. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. So if you can find the edge, that's hundreds of millions of dollars. If you can just find that 2% efficiency that you can drive over other clubs. It's fascinating. You combine the lean into analytics with the lean into the academy, the building of a generational pipeline. There's a lot of interesting things going on with San Diego Football Club. We'll see if it all pans out when 2025 rolls into sharper focus. Meanwhile, here's some things we were chatting about a little bit earlier in the program, hitting reset on a couple of the topics, especially from back at 10 a.m. Padres and awards have a torturous history. Usually we get to be on the outside watching someone from L.A. hold them up. But 3 Padres received Silver Slugger awards yesterday. Those are voted on by the manager and coaches from all 30 teams looking to vote for the best hitter.
We tend to win those awards.
Right.
It's the other ones we don't win.
Well, the executives will never vote for AJ. We've proven that this week. Yeah, that's just literally never going to happen. AJ could go 162-0, and they'd be like, "Yeah, but remember those medical records?"
Yeah, they'd be like, "Yeah, but we really like what the Cardinals did."
Do you remember Drew Pomerantz? Yeah. How about this? How about this nice team over here that won 84 games on a budget?
That's right.
So yeah, good point on that. But Manny Machado. I think Annie and I will talk a little more about Manny on tomorrow's show because we haven't done a performance review this week yet, and he's next up on the list as we carry around the infield. So we'll chat at more length in the 11 a.m. hour about Manny tomorrow. But I think fair to say that Manny Machado answered a lot of critics in 2024. Not to say that those critics aren't going to be right there at his doorstep again when, as Braden talked about at 10, he probably gets off to a 640 OPS start through the first month or 6 weeks of next year. It always seems to be that way.
I'm calling it now before the haters come out. That's what's going to happen.
Slow start, man.
Yes, he's going to have a slow start, and everybody needs to relax.
He usually has a slow start. And then at the end of the year, here's a guy who's a 278 career hitter that hit 275. Here's a guy who averages 29 homers a year for his career, hitting 29 homers, driving in over 100 runs once again, winning a second Silver Slugger, and doing it with a painful elbow rehab, coming back from the surgery after tennis elbow really rendered him almost without power at the end of his 2023 season, forced him into a play one day, sit one day, play one day, sit one day type situation just to manage the severe pain in his elbow. For him to come back and put up a 120 OPS plus and win National League Silver Slugger at third base, just a quick reminder that the Padres didn't invest in Manny Machado because they threw a dart at a board. They invested in him because they believe that he has staying power for years and years to come.
Yeah, and that's a big reason why, obviously he's part of this team, and we talked about the way that he plays the game and the way that he's able to keep himself healthy for long periods of time, and he posts almost every single day unless the organization tells him not to. Those are the type of players you want to invest in long term. Even though Manny's gotten hurt the last couple of years, he's not on the injured list very long. And he goes out there and puts together some great performances. He knows how to make it through a year, and I like that kind of savviness to him, and it kind of goes along the lines of Yu Darvish, who always seems to post and be ready to go at his age. I know this year a little bit different, but for the most part, those are two professional players on this team that I know are going to be ready to go and take care of their bodies during the off season, so they can make it through the whole season in the regular season.
So big congrats to Manny Machado. And hopefully, listen, the last 2 years have been injury-plagued years for Manny Machado. So there's still potentially a higher level for a fully healthy 2025 for Manny. There might be another 3 years of an even enhanced level for Manny Machado. But if he keeps throwing up 275, 30, and 100, that's going to be absolutely fine for the remainder of the decade. Meanwhile, for Jackson Merrill, that's the one guy that I feel like we kind of short-shrifted when we talked through this, because we talked about Jurickson and the semi-impossible position the Padres are in with Jurickson. Jackson Merrill, just the fifth rookie outfielder ever to win a Silver Slugger award, a list that includes guys like Ichiro, Mike Trout, Julio Rodriguez, some of the great players in modern history, putting a capstone, and I hope next Monday, Rookie of the Year, puts a final capstone on Jackson Merrill's incredible 2024. I'm almost starting to wonder, what can you do as an encore in 2025?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot that you could do. It's not like you can win a Sophomore of the Year award at the end of the year. I mean, now he's just a regular old baseball player, right? I mean, probably just trying to make all-star games and put yourself in an MVP candidacy, I guess, would be the only thing that would go a little bit higher. But you set the bar really high in his first year, and I know a lot of teams will be going after him. And now at this point, I mean, I think, you wanted the rookie to stay lower in the batting order, which I had agreed with the entire year. And I think now you could start thinking about moving him up a little bit in the batting order. I mean, now I think he's earned that opportunity. And, if things got out to a rough start for him, I don't want to see anybody jump off the bandwagon of Jackson Merrill. I mean, Corbin Carroll had a terrible year to start the year in his sophomore year. Same thing with Julio Rodriguez. I mean, it was a non-factor in his sophomore season. So a lot of times the league does make an adjustment to you at some point, and Jackson's not going to be the guy that goes through this unscathed for his entire career, because even the best go through some slumps. So my thing is be patient with him if he doesn't jump out to a stellar start like we saw last year, but I think he's got what it takes to continue to put together great seasons and hopefully be a multi-year all-star for the San Diego Padres. And now it's just finding ways of, and you got some time, but not too much time, but you got to find ways to be able to keep him in your long-term plans.
Of all the things that Jackson Merrill did in his rookie season, there's two, and I go back and forth between what is most surprising to me. But I'm going to land on this. 61 extra base hits. 31 doubles, 6 triples, 24 home runs. Being perfectly honest, I thought Jackson Merrill could get off to a fine start in his career, hitting 24 homers in his first maybe 2.5 Major League seasons. I thought maybe 10 homers last year was a pretty reasonable figure for a guy who didn't show big-time power in the minor leagues, didn't show huge slugging percentage in the minor leagues. I mean, 5'11" at low A ball when he hit 6 homers in 55 games. You know, he hit 15 homers throughout his minor league career in 2023 total across 3 franchises. So to see that jump up the way it did, and I'm not sure that I don't know, honestly, with his swing, 24 homers might be a baseline for him. It might be a low baseline for him going forward. He's got that kind of uppercut that you would expect to see the power. I just did not expect to see it develop in his very first season.
Well, he's got the bat speed, right? I mean, the power comes from either bat speed or, obviously mass. And when you have mass, it's a lot easier to hit for power, as we see with a lot of the, bigger players in Major League Baseball. But bat speed is a big reason, why guys hit the ball hard. And he's got tremendous bat speed. He is a fastball hunter. A lot of the times during that run where he was winning almost every game for the Padres late in games, they were trying to sneak fastballs past the guy that is notoriously been able to, and at least showed himself in the beginning part of the season that he could hit fastballs. And so when you got a great fastball hitter with great bat speed, that's going to supply a lot of power, especially a lot of the speed in Major League Baseball coming from the arms that supply most of the power. If Merrill's able to hit that and he hits for line drives, those line drives are going to go out for home runs instead of, swinging for the fences. And I talked about his uppercut swing a little bit. It's not like he has the launch angle. He just has that line drive swing, thinking gap to gap. And when he gets good bat speed on it, the ball flies out of the yard. And he might have a lot bit more of that because of how talented he is with the bat.
All right, last thing here, and then we'll take our break and we'll get to Ask Us Anything. This is just kind of a random thing, but I just want to throw a little plug for why I enjoyed the NBA Cup so much last year and why I found myself immediately liking it again last night. And it's not the courts. The courts are whatevs,
They all kind of looked the same last night.
Yeah, there were a lot of blue.
And then like the paint. In the paint almost looked like the trophy.
That's the idea, yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, the paint's supposed to look like the trophy.
Yeah, just in that spot. I mean, it's just they all look the same. They weren't like unique. They should be like City Connects.
Yeah, well, and there's going to be more. I think when you see all the teams, like the Celtics had a greenish thing.
Greenish court.
Yeah, green court. There was like big parquet instead of small parquet. Your mileage may vary on the courts, the court design. Here's what I like about NBA Cup. Detroit won yesterday. Orlando won yesterday. The Magic without Paolo aren't going to go anywhere. Detroit's not going to go anywhere, period. But Detroit could make the quarterfinals of the NBA Cup. Like, they absolutely could. And I think as the years go on with this, it's going to be one of the hidden features, is that some of the teams that you're like, oh, why do I even care that team's in the league? What does it matter? Name anyone. Not the Wizards, because they suck. But I'll stick with the Pistons. Like, Detroit's been bad for forever, really. But for like 4 or 5 years, they've been really bad. But who's to say that over a 4-game sample, they can't pop some wins? And all of a sudden, here's a young team that's not going to get to play for anything really the rest of the year, actually in a playoff environment. Getting to that quarterfinal, maybe getting to that semifinal. Learning how to win, learning how to have fun winning together. I really do believe that one of the reasons why the Indiana Pacers went as far as they did last year was because as a young team that wasn't expected to do anything, they made it to the finals of the NBA Cup. And yeah, the Lakers beat them that day, but it was a coming out party for Halliburton, for Mathurin, for all of these players. And then all of a sudden, where do you see the Pacers? You see the Pacers moving along in the real playoffs later that year. Amidst everything else, having a novelty tournament at the beginning of the NBA season, the period of time where most people think, who gives a you know what about the NBA, wake me up at Christmas, and I'll start to pay attention. It not only gives you a different court, a different look, an understanding it's a Tuesday night, so it's an NBA Cup night. It's a Friday night, it's an NBA Cup night. You know, a little bit of appointment viewing, like, oh, okay, it's one of those nights. But also, it breaks up the traditional hierarchy of the year and allows these lesser clubs to have one swing, you know, one chance to grab a ring that they're not going to be able to get at the end of the year, but they might be able to get the NBA Cup.
Well, it puts them in a competitive spot. I think it's good for the fans, too, obviously. When you're early on in the season's not over yet, and teams are like, you know, F it, right? And they don't want to play anymore at the end of the year. So I like the idea. I think the concept's great. I think it, you know, is fun. And, you know, if that is what needs to give some guys a little extra juice at this point in the season, I'm all for it. I'm all for other leagues trying to do that, too, especially the leagues that play all the time. It's good to mix it up and make some fun things happen aside from like playing internationally, right? Which is, you know, fun for some people, but not everybody out there. So I like the concept of the NBA Cup, and I'm curious to see how this, you know, evolves over the next couple of years.
Yeah, me too. I just, hey, you know, at first it was like derided the day it arrived. Like, oh, who gives a blah, blah, blah. And it had a bad name the first year, the in-season tournament. That was pretty bad. Placeholder name. Now it's got a name, NBA Cup. Good name, fine name.
Sounds good.
Yeah, you know, it's a legit cup. The cup looks pretty nice. Winning $500,000, that means something even to a multimillionaire. And again, a Detroit, an Orlando. Who knows?
The Lakers.
The Lakers, yes.
Like last year.
Let's be honest. The Lakers aren't going to win, Jack, you know what.
Trying to defend their honor.
But they could win another NBA Cup,
right.
And then it would be a thing that we'd remember about that year's team. So good stuff all the way around. All right. When we come back, last segment of the show, Gwen and Chris are getting ready. They're swinging the weighted bats in the on-deck circle. But in between, it's your chance to call in and help fill up the final segment of the program. We are going to open up the lines. Hang on, we have to do the... Okay. It worked. Every once in a while I mess it up, but it worked. The lines are open now. They were closed before. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. You have 10 minutes to call the show. 10 solid minutes. And if you call at any point in that 10-minute window, we're going to throw you on hold, and then we're going to put you on the air. All we ask is that you have a question ready to ask Braden and I when you get on the air. Ask us anything. It's next on The Fan. 146. Final segment of the day. Annie will be back tomorrow. Look forward to chatting with her. Like I said, we'll throw Manny Machado across the desk for another performance review. Can you imagine them just like sitting down like, oh, well, Craig and Annie are going to give me my performance review today.
That'd be hilarious.
Guess I better tune in.
Have him in the studio.
Right.
That'd be great.
But he has to just sit there.
Exactly. Like a business meeting.
He has to just sit there and take notes. Take notes, Manny. Performance review. This part was good. This part,
yeah, not so much.
Here's where we got a couple notes. Not a lot, just a couple notes.
Some areas you got to work on.
Yeah. Let's talk about your timeliness, your response and quicker response in texts. Can we get your text back a little quicker, Manny? We have not signed a lifetime friendship contract with Manny. It was not offered to all the shows.
No.
Only to Ben and Woods. So it's all good. Still like Manny, though. Yeah, right. As Nate says in the chat. Then Manny just looks at us and says, put the fries in the bag.
That's right, 100%.
And then we have ourselves a great radio moment.
Then just start glazing them, and then it'll change it.
Right.
To use more terms that the kids say.
Oh, no cap. Let's hit the bumper. Still have 3 minutes to call the show, 833-288-0973. So if you want to give us a ring, we're going to get you in, 833-288-0973. Just have to call in the next 2 minutes and 35 seconds. Juan in the chat asks, Craig, I think we do have to go over the luxury tax to compete for a title this year, to be honest. What do you think? Juan, I agree. I agree 100%. Yeah,
100% agree. I don't think you could save money now, and if you do, you could say what you want, but your actions speak louder than words. And your actions would be like, we're not competing.
They're at the number already.
Yes. They're at 244. They got to be at 241.
Right.
They're
and by the way,
over by $3 million.
Right. And by the way, the second apron is 261.
Yeah. Gives you some room to work with.
I think you should go all the way up to it.
I agree.
It costs $4 million to complete fine. If you go $20 million over the number, it's $4 million.
What is an additional $4 million to an organization?
I mean, come on.
That's already paying $250-something million on payroll.
Let's just, funnel the Papa Roach proceeds.
That's right.
Into our fine there.
And then rise against.
Yeah, book another concert. Get it lined up. I couldn't agree with you more, Juan. I think it would be irresponsible for the Padres to try and sell us that they are all in 2025 if they trade the 3 or 4 players they would have to trade in order to try and put a full team on the roster on the field while cutting payroll. Here's our friend Alex in Cardiff. Hi, Alex. Thanks for calling in. Ask us anything.
Okay, I'm wondering how many wins do you think the Padres will have next year?
Oh, I don't know. We don't even know who the team is yet.
I know who's on the team. As currently constructed,
90, because Mike Schilt apparently is allowed to win 90 games every year. So I'll say 90, but that's complete fan fiction on my part at this point.
Can't wait to hold you to that next year.
Well, you said 90.
You said 90
November
on
13th.
November 13th.
What if I'm right?
Yeah, Padres decide to sell everybody.
Well,
there goes that.
No, well, there goes that.
Padres
Exactly.
decide to buy everybody. Oh, look, Juan Soto's on the team.
We still might win 90 games.
That's true.
You never know. All right, there's my answer for you, Alex. Here is Dan downtown. What's up, downtown Dan? How are you?
Hey, how we doing, Craig?
Doing great, brother. Ask us anything.
All right, so Boss Adam is deciding to shake things up, and he's telling you have to trade one of your co-hosts, Annie or Braden. Who are you trading for and why?
Wait, who am I trading to? What I don't.
Well, you get to choose from Ben and Woods or Gwen and Chris.
Holy cow!
It's a small pool, but you got to choose. You got to make a choice.
Oh, I am not answering this question, Dan. Are you kidding me?
Oh, come on. Ask you anything. Ask you anything.
No, you did. You asked me anything. That's
a pretty
for sure.
clever ask us anything.
I mean, it really is a pretty clever ask us anything. I don't know, man. Okay, so on one level,
one of us is here and one of us is not right now.
right? So I'm definitely not trading Braden because he's right here.
That's right.
So I'm trading Annie because she's not here.
True. What are you picking up in return?
Right. Well, I mean, on one level, it'd be really interesting to talk ball with Tony Gwynn Jr.
It would.
Every day.
I'm sure Tony would like the midday time slot.
But he's not there every day.
That's true. Then but during baseball season, just be solo the whole time.
Yeah, I'd have a lot of solos. It'd just be like the two of us a lot of time. Woodsy, very popular fella. Definitely adds a lot of creativity, a lot of juice. Does he want the 10-2? That might be a deal breaker for him. He might not report.
He might not report to camp.
He might
a
hold
contract
out.
extension.
He might hold out.
True.
It's a very difficult situation.
You've already done a bunch of shows with Ben in the past and with Chris.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I've worked with both
Right.
those guys. They've got no interest in continuing that relationship.
Making a trade for a player to be named later.
And it winds up being Annie again. Like Dickie Knowles was once. Famously, one year.
Trade Annie
Dickie
to
Knowles,
you can trade Annie to the pre and post game show, and you have Sam Levitt with you.
Oh, hang on.
That might be a win-win-win for everybody.
That might be one that both parties would accept.
It's true.
I feel like Annie would be pretty happy on that beat, and I think Sammy might be okay in here.
We should do that for one of the days. Just like rearrange our entire roster, just all over the place on an opposite day.
Damn.
But won't not tell anybody about it
Ooh,
until the
Freaky
day
Friday?
of. Yeah.
A little shake up.
But you have to
be a lot of fun.
But you have to
don't give Adam too many good ideas.
You have to have one member for each show on different.
Right.
Like you can't have two of the same.
Yeah.
So one
Full
member
jumble.
of each show would have to be on the morning, and you can't do all producers.
No.
You have to mix it up.
No, full jumble. Spin the wheel.
That actually would be kind of fun.
Adam could do like a World Cup reveal. Like when
pool play.
Yeah, group play reveal.
Group play reveal. I like it. Unless I get stuck on in the morning. Actually, the pros would be in the morning though. Like if we're only one day, it's like you have the rest of the day off.
That's true. Hey, listen. When you go to the morning show, it's the third day that hurts. It is not the first day. The first day is
right.
awesome. You just don't sleep. You just you jump your alarm like 5 times.
This needs to be a January, February dead sports time flip up. Mix up the box a little bit.
I think it's actually I think Adam is probably working on this right now.
Well, and
thanks to Downtown Dan.
That time of the year too, it's not you don't have any major conflicts, right? With everybody else. Everybody else is still here. You just have to do it on a day where Elo's not with women's basketball for San Diego State.
A Freaky Friday.
I don't mind it.
All right, Adam, get to it.
Spitballing great ideas here.
Downtown Dan just dropping hot dollar ideas.
Well, you and I are on the same page until all the other hosts at the Fan start MFing us on the text.
That's it for the show. Gwynn and Chris is next. Danny will be back tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day.